was a crybaby growing up, always feeling like nothing in his pathetic world ever went his big black way. To make matters worse, his parents were constantly buried in work, leaving him with no attention. Following their divorce, they practically abandoned him, leaving him entirely alone. Whenever Minwoo let his tears flow, the landlord's daughter was always right there to reassure him, offering kind words and telling him everything would be okay. Yet, instead of feeling comforted, this constant attention only made him feel deeply upset. Throughout the neighborhood, she was widely known as a naive fool. She was so generous that she would buy toys for all of Minwoo's friends, leading the other kids to eagerly take advantage of her wealth while secretly mocking her behind her back. She never seemed to care about the gossip though, and constantly tried to look after Minwoo, even encouraging him to drink milk so he would grow taller. However, the constant teasing from other kids made our boy so deeply embarrassed that he ended up lashing out, calling her an old lady and demanding she leave him alone. When she kindly offered him the milk anyway, he knocked it out of her hand in a fit of rage, calling her foolish. Even as she tried to walk him home, he ran off, yelling for her to stay away and calling her names. Minwoo knew deep down that his parents had tasked her with watching over him, and he resented them for forcing this arrangement. No matter how terribly he treated her, whether she was trying to help him clean up, offering overcooked meals, or attempting to assist with his homework as they grew older, she never stopped looking out for him. To our boy, however, her endless care was nothing more than an annoying nuisance. Determined to escape her presence, Minwoo made up his mind to leave town the moment he became an adult. Fast forward to the present day, and he is now 20 years old. Unfortunately, despite his grand plans of independence, absolutely nothing has changed, and he spends his days frustratedly losing at computer games. Living off a meager $500 monthly allowance sent by his father, Minwoo finds himself starving with only $10 left in his wallet. Just as he is wondering how to survive, his savior arrives. The landlord's daughter shows up right on cue, bringing along a delicious bowl of black bean noodles to make sure he is well fed. Minwoo happily digs into the food, thanking her for the meal and asking why she isn't eating any herself. She giggles softly, assuring him that she is fine just watching him eat. Sitting nearby, she quietly waits while Minwoo finishes up. Soon enough, our boy pats his stomach, completely full and satisfied. The landlord's daughter then gets up to head out, mentioning that she should be going. But before she can make her exit, Minwoo calls out for her to wait. As she turns back in confusion, Minwoo speaks up from behind. He cheekily tells her that before she leaves, she needs to do his dishes and prepare his dinner. He playfully teases her to get his way, making her squeal in surprise and quickly agree. Despite her mild protests to step away, she can't help but giggle as he continues to joke around. Shortly after, she happily hums while washing the dishes at the sink. Because her parents moved abroad for business, she was left legally owning the entire apartment building. Thanks to her generous nature, Minwoo has been living in his apartment completely rent-free for the past few years. She is remarkably sweet and trusting, regularly stopping by to cook and clean for him. However, her vast wealth and innocent personality unfortunately made her a prime target for opportunistic people looking to take advantage of her finances. Not long ago, a pair of pushy salespeople cornered her, claiming they were offering a special, once-in-a-lifetime deal because they knew her parents. Completely overwhelmed, she took the contract straight to Minwoo, asking for his guidance. Looking over the documents, Minwoo immediately realized the papers were actually designed to trick her into transferring ownership of her property and taking on someone else's debt. He cautioned her about being so gullible, but ever since he helped her avoid that major scam, she has treated him with utmost respect. In fact, she sweetly calls out his name, expressing her deep gratitude. Bothered by the sudden dramatic display, Minwoo asks her to step back and give him space. Looking down with a heavy sigh, our boy can't help but wonder if she truly understands these complex matters, questioning whether she is just exceptionally naive or genuinely misguided. Just as Minwoo is finishing his conversation with the landlord's daughter, Hari, the front door slams open. In storms Hari's younger sister, Nari, loudly calling out for her sibling. Minwoo remembers that Hari has a younger sister who has openly disliked him since childhood. As Hari stands beside him, our boy internally notes that their rhyming names, Hari and Nari, are about the only organized thing about them. Nari immediately snaps at her sister, warning her not to be so nice to a slacker who is clearly benefiting from their generosity. Offended by the insult, Minwoo responds defensively, pointing out that he is barely older than she is. Nari is quick with her counterattack, demanding to know why he gets to call her own sister an old lady if he is so sensitive about age. Overwhelmed by the shouting, Minwoo covers his ears as Hari desperately tries to play peacemaker, pleading with them not to argue because she put so much effort into preparing a meal for everyone. Hoping to foster some peace, Hari invites them both to sit down and enjoy dinner together. However, Nari is immediately annoyed to find out her sister actually cooked for him, which almost starts another fight. To ease the tension, Hari proudly points out that she even prepared the rolled omelets that Minwoo loves so much. Not wanting to be left out, Nari quickly claims that she loves them too, snatching one up with her chopsticks. This immediately upsets Minwoo, who complains that she is taking his food. Despite the bickering, they both dig in, and Hari happily watches them eat. Minwoo admits that after dropping out of college, he has mostly just been wasting his time away. Back in his room, he sits idly on his bed while Hari diligently wipes the floor. He acts like a demanding boss, reminding her not to miss the corners, to which she cheerfully agrees while wringing out her wet cleaning rag. While she cleans, Minwoo taps away on his phone, texting his friends. One of his buddies asks if there is anything fun going on, mentioning a friend who recently went through a breakup and is looking to make new acquaintances. When Minwoo jokingly replies that he only has an older acquaintance hanging around his place, his friend quickly shoots back that he is crazy, pointing out that she is actually exceptionally pretty. Minwoo looks over at Hari, perhaps starting to see her in a slightly different light as she smiles warmly back at him. As Hari cheerfully hums while wiping the floor, she ends up working right in front of Minwoo, completely blocking his view. Annoyed by her lingering right there, Minwoo firmly prompts her to go clean somewhere else. Hari gasps in surprise, flustered by the sudden demand, but sweetly promises she is almost finished with her chores. Minwoo turns his attention back to his phone, only to receive a notification from his friend sharing a fitness tutorial video featuring an older instructor. He jokingly texts back, asking if it is an overseas production and calling his friend crazy, since he claims to be busy working. Even so, curiosity gets the better of him, and he plugs in his earphones to watch the video. The clip starts with an instructor wearing glasses who is startled by a group of young men returning home early. The group cheekily announces they heard she is offering a private PT session, and they are eager to learn from her. A whole lineup of excited participants wait in anticipation as the flustered instructor covers her mouth, noting that this special workout was supposed to be a personal study session for only one person. Minwoo's friend texts him again, pointing out how the setup in the video is surprisingly similar to Minwoo's own living situation with Hari. However, our boy is a harsh critic, texting back that the scenario is completely unrealistic. He adds that the actress is not his type, prompting his friends to spam the chat, teasing him for losing his mind and blaming his bad taste on being single for too long. Minwoo looks at his phone, genuinely wondering if the instructor is actually supposed to be that attractive. Suddenly, a loud splash breaks his train of thought, making Minwoo jump in absolute shock. He looks over to see that Hari has accidentally tripped over the cleaning bucket, spilling water all over the floor. Soaked from head to toe, Hari apologizes profusely, looking completely flustered as she complains about being entirely wet. As Minwoo stares at her, he undergoes a sudden realization. Seeing Hari wet, flushed, and apologetic triggers a comparison in his mind, making him realize that she looks remarkably like the instructor from his video. Minwoo is completely stunned by the sudden turn of events, taken entirely by surprise. He experiences a sudden realization, genuinely wondering if she was always this exceptionally pretty. Before he can even process his thoughts, Hari begins changing out of her soaking wet shirt right in front of him. Startled and taken aback, Minwoo frantically demands to know what on earth she is doing. Hari, completely unbothered, simply smiles and asks if he can provide her with some dry clothes to wear. Standing there in her base layer, she cheerfully adds that she will go ahead and wipe up the spilled water on the floor. At that exact same time, Minwoo's friends are hanging out together. Wang Ki-jung, the group's playboy, is highly annoyed because Minwoo completely stopped replying to his messages right after being sent a fitness video. Soohan Kim, the social elite of the group, tells him to just forget about him. He points out that Minwoo always acts this way, only reaching out when he needs something and constantly claiming he is too broke to join them for drinks. Wang Ki jokingly suggests that Minwoo probably got too invested in the video and is busy chatting with his landlord. This crude remark immediately draws an annoyed reaction from Yina Kim, the group's party girl, who demands he use better language, prompting a quick apology from Wang Ki. The conversation then shifts to just how attractive Minwoo's landlord actually is. One of the friends recalls when she warmly greeted them and offered them rice cake soup, admitting he found her presence remarkably memorable. While Wang Ki laughs it off, the group continues to gossip about her personal life, speculating about her past and wondering if she and Minwoo spend a lot of time together. They even mention how pretty her younger sister is. As everyone talks, Minwoo's childhood friend, Seoko Heo, sits in complete silence. The others notice his serious expression and laugh, urging him to say something since he knows Minwoo best. But Seoko suddenly slams his glass onto the table in anger, telling them to stop saying strange things about Hari. His sudden outburst leaves Wang Ki and Yina completely baffled, wondering what is wrong with him. Before they can get an answer, Soko's face flushes red. He collapses face first onto the table and mutters a surprising confession. He actually asked her to hang out. This revelation sends shockwaves through the entire table, leaving his friends completely stunned and noting that Minwoo has no idea about any of this. Eager for details, Wang Ki urges Soko for answers, demanding to know when it happened and if she actually agreed. Rather than answering, Soko simply smiles with quiet confidence. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, the focus shifts back to Hari. Standing there after changing out of her wet shirt, she calls out to Minwoo, sheepishly explaining once again that she spilled water all over herself. Hari softly asks Minwoo to give her something dry to change into. Stunned and completely flustered, Minwoo has no idea how to react. In a panic, he snaps at her, demanding to know why she thinks he would have extra clothing lying around his place, before calling her foolish. His harsh words make Hari flinch in surprise. Feeling too overwhelmed to stay in the room, Minwoo steps out, huffing under his breath. Now alone in another room, Minwoo searches through his dresser. He lets out a heavy sigh, realizing how unnecessary it is to react so strongly. His embarrassment soon turns into guilt as he realizes he let his nerves get the best of him and raised his voice for no good reason. Remembering that she only got soaked because she was busy cleaning his messy apartment, he decides he needs to apologize to her and offer her a drink. With a clean set of old clothes in hand, Minwoo slides the door open. He calls out, telling her she can just wear some of his oversized old clothes. But the moment he steps inside, his jaw instantly drops in absolute shock. Scattered across the bedroom floor are her soaking wet clothes. Minwoo looks up to find Hari resting comfortably on his bed, wearing his baggy beige t-shirt. Completely surprised, Minwoo calls out, asking why on earth she took off all of her wet attire. Unbothered by his sudden volume, Hari casually replies that her base layers were wet as well, so it only made sense to change out of those two. Before Minwoo can even process the situation, he notices what she is holding. He is shocked to see that she has his phone in her hands. To make matters 10 times worse, the fitness tutorial video his friend sent him earlier is still playing on the screen. Our boy internally panics, frantically wondering why in the world she is watching such a personal study session video. With a completely innocent expression, Hari looks up at him and points out that the video was already playing on his phone when she found it. Overcome with embarrassment, Minwoo calls out in desperation. Hari just stares back at him with a sweet, naive look, completely oblivious to his panic. Minwoo immediately takes the phone out of Hari's hands, asking why she is looking at his device. Flustered, he tells her to put her dry clothes on and asks why she is watching someone else's personal video. Internally, our boy is in a panic, wondering how much of the video she actually saw and whether she read his private chat messages as well. Hari rests on the bed, processing the situation and realizing that the video was indeed a personal study session. As a heavy silence fills the room, Minwoo quietly looks down at his phone while Hari notices his tense expression, realizing how flustered he has become. Instead of being bothered, Hari speaks up to reassure him. She kindly tells him that she does not think it is strange at all that he enjoys private PT classes. Standing nearby, she cheerfully declares that he is an adult now and explains that taking an interest in standard fitness routines is completely normal. She tells him not to feel embarrassed and offers to let him talk to her about his private gym sessions whenever he wants. However, Minwoo has had enough of her teasing. He abruptly asks her to stand back, placing himself between her and the door. Looking over at her, he demandingly asks what is wrong with her, who she thinks she is, and why she cannot just mind her own business for once. Despite his firm tone, Hari looks up at him with a gentle expression. She softly stammers that she is just really proud of how much he has grown, adding that she still finds his stubbornness endearing. This comment only makes Minwoo's expression darken. Standing firm, his voice turns deep and serious as he asks if he still looks like a kid to her. Hari's heart begins to beat fast. She weakly stammers that he does not seem like a kid at all, internally surprised by how mature our boy has become. Just as the tension in the room reaches a peak, the sudden beep of the front door's electronic lock cuts through the silence, instantly snapping Minwoo back to reality. Hearing the lock beep, Hari and Minwoo freeze in surprise. Outside, the sound of laughter and chatter approaches as Nari and her high school friends return home on their graduation day. Her friends are happily talking about how hilarious their principal's 5-second final speech was and complaining that none of their family showed up to celebrate. They call out as they step through the front door, wondering if anyone is home. One of Nari's friends nervously asks if it is really okay to walk in like this, but Nari confidently assures her that the resident does not even pay rent anyway. As they explore the apartment, her blonde friend looks down at the floor and spots a pink garment, pointing it out to Nari. The brunette friend immediately wonders if Minwoo has a guest over, while the blonde friend sits on the couch, holding up the item and speculating if he has a girlfriend. Nari rests on the sofa, highly doubting he has a girlfriend, and quietly wondering whose item it actually is. The friends burst into laughter, joking about various silly explanations and playfully chatting back and forth. Hidden away in the dark, cramped closet, Minwoo and Hari overhear everything. Minwoo feels completely overwhelmed by the girls' conversations as they laugh outside. He can hear them making plans to watch a movie and asking what snacks they bought. Meanwhile, the closet is exceptionally hot and stuffy. Minwoo stays silent nearby, whispering for her not to move. He internally expresses his frustration, wondering why Nari had to choose this exact moment to come home with her friends. Unable to stay in the tight space any longer, Hari whispers, asking if they can just walk out and face them. Minwoo is shocked by her suggestion, asking if she has lost her mind and pointing out what the girls would assume if they stepped out like this. When Hari looks back in confusion, Minwoo's face flushes a deep red. He struggles to find the words, realizing that if they are caught, everyone will assume they were busy holding a private study session. He explains that the girls will definitely think they were having a personal study session in the closet. However, Hari simply giggles and dismisses the idea, reassuring him that Nari knows nothing like that could ever happen between the two of them. Before they can debate any further, a sudden loud crash echoes from the living room, startling the girls on the couch and instantly ramping up the tension once again. The sudden noise immediately catches the girls' attention. The brunette friend looks back, wondering what that sound was, while the blonde friend points toward Minwoo's bedroom, guessing the noise came from that direction. Eager to find out, they suggest going to check it out. Meanwhile, Nari sits on the couch in complete silence, quietly eating a snack. Rather than joining her friend's excitement, she remains completely quiet and thoughtful, letting the tension build as her friends prepare to investigate the mysterious sound. Minwoo's mind then drifts back to a painful childhood memory. After getting into a rough fight, a young Minwoo sat silently in a room, his face covered in bruises and bandages. Nearby, another kid's mother comforted her sobbing son, acknowledging his anger while gently scolding him for hitting his friend. After her son tearfully apologized and confirmed he had said sorry to Minwoo, the mother proudly praised him as a good boy. Smiling, she thanked the school staff, noting that fighting is just a natural part of growing up, before cheerfully taking her son out to celebrate with some dinner, leaving young Minwoo sitting completely alone. As evening approached, Minwoo watched other children walk home happily with their parents. Back inside, the school staff whispered among themselves, wondering if his parents were ever going to pick him up, and realizing they could not even reach them. They questioned whether his parents cared about him at all, quietly warning each other to keep their voices down so he wouldn't hear. Just as young Minwoo sat in hopeless silence, the door suddenly slammed open. A youthful Hari rushed in, breathless from running all the way there. Stunned, young Minwoo could only stare as she offered him comfort. Crying, she apologized for being late and warmly promised to take him out for dinner too, finally giving him the care he had been waiting for. This memory of Hari constantly looking after him throughout his youth transitions back to the present day. Now that they are both adults, Minwoo and Hari walk down the street together while Minwoo quietly contemplates how much their dynamic has changed. The daydream is suddenly shattered by a loud bang. In the real world, Nari storms directly into the bedroom. Pointing angrily, she calls out for him, demanding to know if he is hiding in there. Back inside the dark, stuffy closet, Minwoo and Hari stand side by side as Minwoo frantically panics, wondering if Nari has actually found their hiding spot. Inside the hot closet, Minwoo frantically panics, wondering what they should do. He is deeply worried that Nari will completely get the wrong idea if she catches them in such an awkward location. Meanwhile, outside the room, one of Nari's friends cautiously asks if it is really okay to hang out at someone else's place like this, suggesting they should just go play video games instead. This comment sets Nari off, and she responds crossly, reminding her friend that the apartment actually belongs to her older sister. Determined to find him, Nari storms toward the bedroom while her friends call after her. She kicks the door wide open, loudly demanding to know if Minwoo is having a private study session inside. When she is met with absolute silence, her friends watch nervously from behind. Nari stands with her arms crossed, mockingly asking if he is seriously going to pretend he is not in there. Refusing to just stand around, she decides to take matters into her own hands and heads straight for the closet. As Nari slowly pulls the closet door open, she is determined not to let him get away with spilling his sports drink all over the closet. However, as the door creaks open, her eyes go wide with shock. Instead of finding Minwoo alone, she discovers her older sister, Hari, crouching inside and offering a highly nervous greeting. Completely dumbfounded, Nari can only gasp in disbelief at the sight of her own sister. Hari sheepishly steps out of the closet while Nari immediately demands an explanation. To cover their tracks, Minwoo quickly chimes in, pointing out that Hari got wet while cleaning his place. Hari eagerly plays along, explaining that she fell into the closet while trying to borrow his clothes, and the two ended up tangled together just trying to get out. Hari nervously turns to Minwoo for backup, and though the excuse is incredibly thin, Minwoo decides it is best to go along with it for now. Sitting on the couch, Nari's friends whisper to each other, doubting the story makes any sense at all, while Nari stands nearby with a dark, furious aura. Unable to contain her rage, Nari confronts Minwoo, angrily demanding to know why her sister keeps cleaning his place since she is clearly not his maid. Minwoo immediately pushes back, calling her a troublemaker and pointing out that she should not be drinking alcohol as a high schooler. Nari fiercely fires back, declaring that she is drinking for the first time because she is finally an adult now, but Minwoo sarcastically advises her to change out of her school uniform before making such a bold claim. Seeing the chaos unfold, Nari's friends quietly begin to tiptoe out of the apartment, nervously announcing that they are heading home and asking Nari to message them later. Nari feels disappointed to see her friends leaving so early, pointing out that she thought they were going to stay up all night watching movies. However, her friends quickly make their exit, shouting that they should watch them later at Danby's house instead. As they wave goodbye to Hari and Minwoo, they sprint out the door. Minwoo watches them leave and decides it is only right to entertain the guests while they are visiting. Remembering a previous conversation, he speaks up, noting that he heard them talking about playing a popular game called Oversea. The girls look back in surprise, confirming that they do play. Seizing the opportunity, Minwoo confidently grins and reveals that he is actually a top-ranked player, asking if they would like to play with him. This unexpected invitation leaves Nari absolutely speechless and furious in the background. Soon enough, the friends gather around Minwoo on the couch, completely thrilled as they watch him dominate the game. They praise him, declaring that he is incredibly talented. Minwoo modestly chuckles, explaining that his skills are only because he spends all his time eating and playing the game, though the girls quickly assure him that gaming is a real skill. Pleased with the attention, Minwoo smoothly tells them to let him know if anyone ever bothers them, promising to handle it on their behalf. This leaves the girls giggling, quietly whispering about how impressive he is. Meanwhile, over in the kitchen, Hari and Nari hear all the lively chatter and giggling from the living room. Hari looks back with a slight pout, remarking on how popular Minwoo is with the other girls. Nari dismisses it immediately, acting like she could not care less. Still, Hari lets out a discontented sigh as she prepares some bread on a plate. Noticing her sister's sudden downturn in mood, Nari asks why she looks so down. Looking noticeably dejected, Hari quietly mutters that she wishes Nari had arrived home just a little bit later. Nari turns around, confused, and asks her sister what she just said. Flustered, Hari quickly backtracks, claiming it was nothing. But Nari is not completely convinced. Holding a kitchen knife, Nari stands in silence for a moment before turning directly to her sister. With a serious expression, Nari bluntly asks Hari if she happens to have special feelings for Minwoo. Nari stands nearby and continues her interrogation, suspiciously asking her sister if she truly did nothing but change her clothes while they were inside that closet. Blushing and anxious, Hari stammers nervously, insisting that of course she was only changing. Desperate to change the subject, she suddenly blurts out that they have completely run out of ground garlic. Nari responds by firmly chopping a cucumber on the board with a chef's knife, making Hari jump in surprise. Glaring intently, Nari growls, demanding her sister tell her she does not actually care for him, and questioning why she is trying so hard to change the subject. Hari frantically waves her hands, desperately claiming that she does not feel that way at all, and asking why on earth she would ever view Minwoo like that. Nari calmly points out that the entire situation is highly unusual. She reminds her sister that she has always been uncomfortable around men, yet she never acts distant around Minwoo, practically spending her entire day with him. Nari adds that while she understood her sister watching out for him when they were younger, still doing so now is surprisingly unusual. Nari suggests that perhaps it is because Minwoo feels more like a family member than anyone else. Hari quickly agrees, blushing as she mutters that she only feels comfortable around him and simply wants to look after him. Hearing this, Nari's suspicion completely melts away. She smiles warmly and offers her sister a reassuring gesture, apologizing for being so suspicious. Hari blushes with a slight hint of guilt, silently wondering if she is actually doing the right thing by hiding the truth. Suddenly, loud laughter from the living room cuts through the air. The two sisters look in unison toward the couch, where Nari's friends are playfully begging Minwoo to do it again just to annoy the other players. Minwoo gladly obliges, leaving the girls completely thrilled. Nari feels highly annoyed, remarking on how surprisingly well he gets along with her friends. For Hari, seeing him receive so much attention triggers a sudden wave of intense jealousy. Watching the scene, she feels she cannot remain there any longer and quickly dashes out of the room. Moving quickly out of the kitchen, Hari approaches Minwoo from behind. Flustered and completely ignoring his surprise, she loudly announces that she is going to the grocery store and demands he tag along to carry the bags. Behind them, Nari watches the chaotic scene unfold with a silent, suspicious gaze. Hoping to stay, Minwoo turns to Nari's friends and asks if they can go shopping later. However, the friends object, complaining that they are having way too much fun hanging out on the couch. Undeterred, Hari blushes and insists they must go, pointing out that today is the very last day of the sale at the local market. Reluctantly, Minwoo finds himself pushing a red shopping cart through the aisles of the grocery store, quietly muttering about how annoying the chore is. He looks back to ask Hari if they need to buy ground garlic, but finds her completely lost in thought. Hari stands in a daze, her face turning red as she vividly remembers the details from the study session tutorial video on his phone. Realizing she simply cannot get the educational video out of her head. Noticing her blank stare, Minwoo speaks up and asks what she is doing, demanding to know why she is spacing out. Calling her name makes Hari jump in shock, leaving her completely flustered as she snaps back to reality. Later that night, the subtle tension continues to linger. Minwoo lies awake in his bed, staring blankly at his ceiling. He finds himself unable to stop thinking about Hari, recalling her flustered expression during their wholesome PT lesson. He rolls over with a heavy sigh, genuinely wondering why she seems so focused lately, and questioning how memorable she can possibly be. As he tosses and turns, Minwoo suddenly realizes he forgot to give her the bag of ground garlic they bought earlier. Deciding it is best to deliver it to her right away, he grabs the plastic grocery bag and quietly tiptoes out of his bedroom. He creeps down the dark hallway, silently wondering if both of the sisters are already asleep. With a quiet clink of the bag, he enters the dark kitchen, letting out a soft sigh as he prepares to leave the groceries on the counter. While our boy stands in the dark hallway, he suddenly hears a faint sound coming from nearby. He stops in his tracks, completely confused by the strange noise. As the soft sound continues to echo through the silence, his attention is drawn directly toward the bedroom door, which is slightly cracked open. Our boy quietly wonders to himself if she is simply having a rough time organizing the room. Hoping to clear things up, he lightly pushes the door open and calls out, asking if she is still awake and letting her know that he left the ground garlic on the desk. The moment he steps inside, his jaw instantly drops in shock. He catches Hari in the middle of a very intense private PT session. She is catching her breath and sweating, her face flushed as she leans against the wall. Breathing heavily, Hari slowly turns her head, completely startled to find our boy looking right at her. Hari slams the door shut in a panic, calling out his name and insisting she was just in the middle of a private nightly stretch. Outside, our boy staggers back, realizing whatever he just walked in on is already finished. He admits to himself that he has known her for a very long time. The memory hits him hard. Back when they were kids, young Hari runs after a group of boys, demanding they return her belongings while they tease her. She tries to defend herself, only for the boys to keep poking fun at her. Hari cries out in distress, then turns to young Minwoo, asking if he heard everything. When he stays quiet, she sobs, wondering how he could just stand there. Minwoo speaks up and insists he noticed nothing at all, walking her away while the other kids yell after them. Back in the present, our boy taps the wall and starts to step toward the exit. Hari asks if he is leaving. Alone in his room later, he lies in bed thinking about how she is usually far too shy for an intense workout like what he just witnessed. He suddenly sits up in shock, trying to convince himself that it does not matter if she is doing a gym sesh and that none of it has anything to do with him. Still, the thought will not leave him alone. He keeps picturing her smiling face, wondering who she did her gym session with and where it even happened. A strange emotion overwhelms him. It is not jealousy and he does not feel betrayed, yet he still cannot sleep. Frustrated, he decides the only way to calm down is to watch some fitness tutorials, already imagining Hari in the middle of the screen. Our boy's imagination runs wild as he stares at his phone, picturing Hari offering to help with a personal study session. He freezes in surprise, certain it is her, only to realize a second later that the instructor is not Hari at all. He cannot figure out why every study video suddenly reminds him of her. Ever since that night, his mind has been completely occupied with thoughts of Hari. It feels almost overwhelming. On the bus the next day, the same issue follows him. He keeps imagining her calling his name while he sits there glued to his phone. His friends notice him looking flustered, wonder what is wrong with him, and mention that they have arrived and should step off. These are already confusing times for our boy, but nothing prepares him for the unexpected news that is about to drop. Later, the whole group gathers for drinks and cheers. Everyone is happy to be hanging out again, joking about suddenly being called family. They notice even quiet Minwoo has shown up. The girls chat about how long it has been since they last saw him and ask if someone brought the drinks. Minwoo just sits there, thinking he only came to get his mind off Hari, yet the place is far too loud. Someone points out that Minwoo looks like he is about to cry, while another friend guesses it is just a headache. Then the real question hits. Is it true that his landlady and Seoko are going out? The news hits our boy like a bomb, and he demands to know what that is supposed to mean. The redhead calmly says she heard they are dating. Our boy presses her on who told her that, and she answers that Seoko himself said he asked her out. She adds that she is pretty sure they are together now, and that everybody already knows. Minwoo sits in stunned silence, realizing Hari never told him anything about it. His mind fills with images of Soko and Hari looking happy together. Unable to take any more, he stands up, announces he is leaving, and walks away. His friends call after him asking where he is going, but the door simply closes behind him. They sigh about his sudden exit. Back at the table, the redhead wonders out loud if they are really sure Soko is dating her. Someone else reacts with surprise that he might not be. Another friend points out that Soko has no actual dating experience, and if he really were going out with someone, he would already be bragging about it. Yet he has not said a single word. The redhead at the table reacts with wide-eyed surprise at the idea that Soko might not actually be dating Hari. Meanwhile, our boy walks down the apartment stairs, grumbling to himself about whatever those guys were talking about. He cannot picture Syoko and Hari together at all, yet his mind still fills with unwanted images of the two of them spending time together, her looking cheerful while calling his name. The thoughts only make him more frustrated. He keeps walking alone through the hallway, sighing and asking himself what is wrong with him. Why should he even care if the two of them are dating or not? He holds his phone tightly, wondering what has him so worked up. Suddenly, the phone buzzes. He stares at the screen in confusion and sees the caller is his mother. Thunder rumbles overhead as the reality of the call sinks in. At the same time, Hari crouches outside petting a stray cat. She notices the dark clouds and wonders if Minwoo remembered to take his umbrella. Our boy meets his mother at a quiet cafe. He asks if she is really getting remarried. She calmly confirms that she is, explaining she cannot live alone for the rest of her life and wants to start a new chapter. Her marriage to his father had been nothing but regrets. Minwoo snaps back, asking if she only called him out to dump this news on him. She scolds him for his tone and asks if it is really that hard for him to understand. She then brings up how she heard he quit college and questions how long he plans on blaming everyone else for his issues. She tells him he cannot keep holding on to past grievances about them not paying attention because that will never improve his life. Finally, she announces she will not be calling him anymore. He should just move forward independently and hopefully wish her well in her new marriage. Minwoo can only stare as he asks how she could say something like that to her own son. She turns away in silence. The last words he ever heard from her echo in his mind. He is just like his father. She stands and walks out of the cafe without looking back. Outside, the rain begins to pour down hard. Our boy stands alone in the pouring rain, still reeling from the meeting with his mother. He mutters that she only called him out for the first time in years just to drop that news on him, and he does not even have an umbrella. Deciding he has had enough, he starts walking away through the downpour. Suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps cuts through the rain. Hari comes dashing toward him, calling his name. He turns in surprise as she reaches him, completely soaked, and points out that he is drenched. She worries he could catch a cold like this, and looks up at him with concern. Minwoo points out that she is wet too. Flustered, Hari explains she ran out the moment she saw him standing in the rain and asks how long he has been out there. Without a word, Minwoo stands by her side in the downpour. Hari looks over in surprise as they stand together in the rain. She softly calls his name, and he answers with hers. Still standing near her, Minwoo asks if she is going to leave him one day too. Hari looks up in confusion, considering his sudden question. She asks if something happened today, then calls him silly and tells him he is supposed to say he will not leave at a time like this. Minwoo only listens quietly. Hari turns to him and quietly asks if they can just stand together like this for a while. The two of them remain in place as the rain continues to fall around them. Nari storms into the apartment and yells at Minwoo to clean the house because it is filthy. To her complete shock, he simply says okay. She freezes and asks if he really just agreed without arguing. Minwoo starts mopping but ends up spilling water all over the floor. Nari points it out, and he quietly apologizes, saying he will wipe it up. After hearing about his mother's remarriage and the rumor that Hari is going out with his friend, our boy has been completely lost. Nari watches in disbelief as he actually cleans on his hands and knees, muttering that he is acting so weird. Later, she meets Hari and quietly explains that something must have happened because Minwoo is suddenly cleaning the place. The stress eventually makes him sick. Minwoo lies in bed with a fever. Nari checks his temperature and sees it is 38.2 degrees. She sighs and complains that all he ever does is play computer games at home, wondering how he even got sick. He only groans in response. Nari grumbles that she was supposed to meet her friends outside and tells him he had better buy her something nice when he gets better. Minwoo weakly calls her annoying, and she snaps back, asking what he just said. Hari arrives and offers to take care of Minwoo so Nari can go meet her friends. Nari thanks her sister and promises to buy chicken on the way home. As Nari heads out in a stylish black dress, Hari wonders if the outfit is suitable. The door closes shut behind her. Alone with the sick Minwoo, Hari sits by the bed in her comfortable loungewear and softly calls his name. Minwoo lies in bed with a high fever, the question lingering in his mind of why Hari has been avoiding him. In a recent memory, he had turned away from her without a word. Back in the present, Hari reaches out and gently checks his forehead, gasping when she feels how warm he is. She realizes he is really burning up and decides she should let his parents know. She picks up the phone and greets the person on the other end, saying it has been a long time and apologizing for not calling more often. When asked what is going on, Hari explains that Minwoo is very sick after staying out in the rain too long and asks if the caller can come check on him. Minwoo's mother answers coldly, addressing her by name. She asks if Hari has not heard the news yet. She is getting remarried. Hari is taken aback and offers congratulations, but wonders what that has to do with Minwoo being sick. The mother replies that she no longer wants anything to do with him and asks if Hari understands. Hari finds the response unfeeling and suggests the mother should at least come see how her son is doing. The mother snaps back asking if Hari fails to understand what she is saying. She adds that Minwoo himself said he understood, so Hari should stop minding other people's business. The rejection hits Hari hard. Thoughts of the rain fill her mind as she remembers Minwoo's earlier question about whether she would leave him one day too. Realizing the full picture, Hari tells Minwoo's mother that she is truly being unreasonable. Hari sighs after ending the call and moves around the room in her casual attire. She sits down beside Minwoo's bed, realizing that is why he got sick in the first place. The thought breaks her heart. She quietly wishes she had told him she would never leave him. Minwoo stirs and asks if it is her. Hari looks down and confirms that yes, it is her, and she is right there. Softly, she says there is something she wants to tell him. Before she can continue, Minwoo's hand suddenly taps her on the forehead. Hari reacts in surprise and asks if he is making fun of her again. He taps her once more, leaving her holding her forehead in mild frustration. She glances at him with a confused look, then leans forward. A moment later, she ends up sitting right next to him by the bed. Both of them freeze in surprise as they pause together in the quiet room. Hari grew up like a princess. She was born with a very kind heart, and that concerned her parents very much. They raised her in a traditional way, hoping she would one day marry into a good family. She attended an all-girls Christian middle and high school, and they strictly prohibited her from spending any time with boys. Ever since that day with Minwoo, when the two of them ended up finishing a personal study session together, a big change came over Hari. Later, a young man greets her casually and says he is heading out for drinks with his friends. He nods toward her and tells her to make him something nice. Hari looks up at him in mild confusion as he speaks again, saying he will see her soon. Yet Hari still does not understand exactly what that change inside her really is. A guy in a red jacket suddenly shouts for Hari to go out with him. She keeps walking, then turns and firmly turns him down. The rejection comes so fast that the guy is left completely shocked. He asks if it is because he is ugly. Hari just shakes her head and dashes off without another word, leaving him standing there stunned as something small falls to the ground. Back home, Minwoo processes the news. Hari confirms that yes, that is all that happened. She explains she has never even spoken to Seoko beyond that one time. Minwoo is stunned, realizing he got worked up over nothing. The relief makes him dizzy, and he rests back on the bed. Still processing, Minwoo asks why she changed her hair routine. Hari is confused at first. He points out he noticed a different style. She quickly explains that Nari's friend had been practicing cosmetic styling and begged her to let her try it out. Hari agreed, mentioning how uncomfortable it felt. Minwoo simply says he sees. While Hari asks why he even brought it up, he brushes it off as nothing. Minwoo lies there muttering quietly and wondering who spread that rumor in the first place. Hari notices his temperature is rising again. The realization hits him hard that he was the one who helped Hari with her very first private PT session earlier. The two of them remain on the bed facing each other. Hari asks if he enjoyed the practice. Minwoo finds it difficult to meet her eyes and wonders what he has gotten himself into. Hari softly says she would not put it that way. She presses further, asking if he actually liked it. His mind races with thoughts. Hari admits she does not really know how she feels about it. Frustrated, Minwoo speaks up and says he is going out for a walk. Hari speaks to stop him. She looks toward him and quietly suggests they try another private study session. Meanwhile, at a bar, a stylish woman stares at Seoko in disbelief and calls him foolish. She cannot believe he just asked Hari out without even having a real conversation first. She laughs, noting that anyone would have walked away thinking he was acting strangely. Seoko admits he was so embarrassed he just froze. Now everyone thinks the two of them are dating, and he has no idea what to do. The woman clicks her tongue and addresses him as her younger brother, then suggests he use the rumors as an opportunity and make them true. Seoko stares at his sister in confusion and asks how exactly he is supposed to make the rumors true. She simply hums and pulls out a gift certificate for a hotel and resort voucher. When he asks what it is, she reminds him that she runs a resort business in Gapyeong and tells him to bring Hari there. Seoko doubts Hari would ever want to go with him alone. His sister calls him silly and says, of course not, he has to invite all his friends too. He realizes that if everyone comes along, especially Minwoo, Hari will not even glance his way. His sister promises she will keep Minwoo busy so he can focus on talking with her. After all, that is what sisters are for. She speaks up and assures him she will help him out. All he has to do is invite Minwoo and Hari. Meanwhile, back in the apartment, Hari lets out a long breath and covers her face with both hands, clearly flustered. She sits there realizing she is really going through with another gym session for back day. The doorbell rings. Outside stands Seoko, bags in both hands, sweating under the summer heat while cicadas chirp loudly all around him. Meanwhile, a group of friends is hanging out eating pizza. One of them asks if anyone has gotten in touch with Minwoo lately. A blonde girl answers that she has not been able to reach him for 2 weeks since that day. She admits he has stayed out of touch before, but this time she is a little worried because he has not even logged into his game for a while. The others are surprised, since Minwoo is usually active online. Seoko realizes it was not just his calls that Minwoo has been ignoring. He still needs to invite Hari to the resort. Back at the apartment, Soko waits at the door, thinking it has been a while since he rang the doorbell and wondering if no one is home. Suddenly, the door opens. Hari appears in light clothing, smiling and a little warm from the summer heat. She greets him and says, "It is Soko." The sight catches him completely off guard, making him freeze on the spot. Hari notices him crouching down and asks if he has a stomachache, wondering why he is suddenly lowering himself like that. Soko quickly says it is nothing. Inside, he scolds himself for acting so nervous. He reminds himself that his interest in Hari is genuine. As Hari turns and starts walking back inside, she casually tells him to watch his step. Hari leads Soko inside. He tries to stay calm, thinking she looks remarkably stylish even in simple everyday clothes. As he watches her walk ahead, he wonders why she looks so striking today and figures it might just be because he has not seen her in a long time. Hari calls out for Minwoo to come over because Soko has arrived. Minwoo drinks some water and asks what is going on. He tells Soko that he should have called first. Soko explains that he did, but Minwoo never checked his phone, then asks if everything is fine. Internally, Soko wonders why Minwoo is dressed so casually in the first place. Soko turns to Hari and mentions bringing her a gift. She brightens up and thanks him. Cheerful as ever, she announces that she will slice some watermelon for everyone and tells the guys to sit down. Soko offers to help, but Hari insists she can manage. After they settle on the couch, Soko asks if Minwoo normally dresses like this at home. Minwoo simply replies that the weather is warm. He then asks why Soko came over, given how unexpected the visit is. Soko admits he came by because Minwoo kept ignoring his messages, making him worried. Minwoo realizes it has been about 2 weeks since he last contacted any of his friends. Ever since that day, he and Hari have been completely focused on their private PT sessions together. An awkward silence lingers between the two guys until Soko finally breaks it. He brings up a cabin trip. Minwoo asks if the invitation includes him, Hari, and Nari as well. Soko confirms that his sister wants to invite everyone since it has been a while, adding that she even suggested bringing the whole group if traveling alone feels uncomfortable. He asks for Minwoo's thoughts, already picturing the free resort vouchers. Minwoo finds the offer a bit sudden and suspects the sister might have an ulterior motive, but Soko cheerfully insists they should definitely go. Hari stands nearby holding a candy apple, looking completely surprised as she runs a hand through her hair. Minwoo watches while Soko explains there is no need to overthink it, since the cabin is free and they ought to accept the generous invitation. Nari has already arrived and lies stretched out on the floor. Minwoo spots her and asks when she made it in. She greets him casually, pointing out how her poor sister has not taken a single summer trip because she is so busy looking after our boy. Nari places the blame squarely on him and presses his forehead. He responds playfully, telling the little pest not to start, adding that the least she could do is take them along. Nari rushes over and insists that he must bring them. Minwoo asks her to back off while Hari tries to settle the commotion. Soko turns to Hari and asks if she wants to go to the cabin, assuming she would love the idea. Nari begs enthusiastically, prompting Hari to answer that she really wants to go. After a brief pause, she sighs and agrees that they should take the trip. Minwoo quickly confirms her decision, telling Soko to count them in. Soko expresses his gratitude, leaving Minwoo to wonder why he is even being thanked. Everyone feels excited as the reality sets in that they are finally going on a getaway. The group prepares early on the day of the trip. Standing on the balcony, Hari checks if Minwoo loaded all the groceries in the cooler. He shouts back in agreement. Someone confirms bringing the charger and power bank while the white rental car waits down below. Minwoo yawns and observes how early everyone woke up, assuming they must be thrilled. Hari stretches energetically with a determined shout, showing how motivated they both feel. Minwoo even completed all the grocery shopping the previous afternoon, while Hari was so eager that she stayed awake all night. They walk downstairs and assemble by the vehicle. Minwoo inspects the car and notes that it looks a little small. Soko explains that his personal car is in the shop, so he hired this rental instead. He acknowledges the tight fit, yet believes they can easily accommodate everyone. Minwoo simply agrees. Soko invites Hari to take the front passenger seat. She pauses briefly before accepting. As she settles in, Soko notices her fresh perfume and thinks to himself that she smells quite nice. Watching nearby, our boy simply looks irritated. Nari leans down to look through the window and suddenly exclaims that unfamiliar faces are already inside. Minwoo asks what she means. The car doors open, and 3 of Minwoo's friends pop up with a cheerful greeting, calling out to him. One friend mutters a light joke while another mentions how nice Nari looks. Minwoo and Nari both freeze in surprise, demanding to know why the group showed up. Someone points out that these are his old buddies. Soko calmly reminds them that he mentioned bringing extra company yesterday, asking if they simply forgot. Minwoo worries that the vehicle is entirely full, wondering how everyone will fit inside. Hari just hums thoughtfully. Ultimately, everyone piles in and sets off on the road. Driving down the highway, the group cheers for the nearest coast and decides to enjoy the journey. Inside the crowded vehicle, one friend remarks on how lovely Hari and Nari look. Nari remains focused on her phone while Minwoo sits right next to her. Her legs end up resting near him, prompting him to call out to Hari. He then mutters that Nari is not pretty at all, teasingly calling her a pig. Nari glares at Minwoo and tells him to leave her alone. Soko offers to turn up the air conditioning, telling everyone to hold on a bit longer, and Hari readily agrees. Nari complains that the temperature remains uncomfortably warm inside the crowded car. She stays seated near Minwoo and messages a friend about being stuck there, calling him an old fart and expressing her annoyance. The friend simply replies with a laugh. Minwoo catches her teasing messages and mutters in response while she giggles. He suddenly decides to tease her back, playfully poking her sides to make her laugh. Nari gasps and tries to hold back her giggles. Minwoo continues targeting a spot he remembers from childhood, causing her to burst out laughing with her hair flying as she asks him to give her a break. The friends in the back crack up watching the whole interaction. A quick memory surfaces of them as children, with Minwoo using the same playful tactic whenever they argued over the television remote. He has known that weakness for years. Nari continues laughing uncontrollably as the car travels along the highway. She asks him to quit, but he only laughs harder. He calmly explains that if she wants to share the space, she needs to follow his ground rules. Flustered and short of breath, Nari calls him unreasonable. The drive experiences an extraordinarily rough start. As the rental vehicle continues down the highway, it rattles heavily, throwing everyone off balance. The commotion is so sudden that one friend in the back accidentally bumps their face, while another complains about knocking their head. Amidst the sudden lurch, Minwoo reaches out to steady himself and accidentally makes contact with Nari. Nari immediately snaps, telling him to keep his space. Minwoo defends himself, claiming he was merely trying to keep her from tumbling over, but Nari refuses to listen, calling him completely untrustworthy. Sensing the rising tension, the driver quickly apologizes for the abrupt maneuver. Sitting in the front, Hari glances back at the bickering pair with a concerned expression. Fortunately, relief arrives in the form of a highway rest stop. The group agrees that it is an ideal moment to take a welcome break, with someone eagerly suggesting they pick up a few tasty snacks. While everyone stretches outside, one of Minwoo's friends tries to act courteous, offering to buy Nari whatever snack she prefers. Nari calmly declines the offer. She casually ties her hair into a high ponytail and walks away, leaving the friend gazing after her. When it is time to resume the journey, an unexpected seat swap surprises everyone. Hari climbs into the back and warmly greets her younger sister, announcing that she will sit in the rear row and offering Nari the comfortable front passenger seat. Although slightly puzzled, Nari accepts the offer. The real surprise occurs when Hari sits right next to our boy in the crowded back seat. Nari stares back in complete disbelief, while Minwoo looks thoroughly flustered. He wonders if Hari's sudden move is actually a sign of rivalry after seeing her sister sitting there earlier. Still, he finds her action quite charming as she settles in. As Soko checks to make sure no one left anything behind, the car starts moving. Minwoo finds himself feeling both overwhelmed and amused as Hari leans back in the cramped seat right next to him. Hari turns around with a bright smile, asking if he wants a churro. She shares the snack with a happy grin, playfully complimenting him when he takes a bite. Minwoo can barely handle the sweet treatment in such close quarters. He feels a sudden wave of affection and realizes he would love to plan a special date with her. When she asks if he wants another bite, Minwoo cheekily grins and asks her to pass the potatoes instead. While Hari tilts her head in confusion, Minwoo decides to make his move under the cover of the back seat, suggesting they plan a private study session together later. Continuing his quiet suggestion in the back seat, Minwoo brings up the topic of a personal study session. Startled by the sudden topic, Hari gasps his name, while a smug Minwoo cheekily thanks her for the cozy arrangement. Rather than dropping the topic, Minwoo playfully tells her to pass him some potatoes. Hari is left feeling completely flustered, blushing deeply as the conversation continues in the crowded space. The playful banter immediately catches Nari's attention from the front seat. She turns back, asking why he uses such casual nicknames when her sister is actually 5 years older than him. Minwoo completely dismisses her complaints, boldly declaring that he can use whatever friendly terms he likes. Annoyed by his shameless attitude, Hari reaches back and gives his arm a quick, light tap, making Minwoo react in surprise. Instead of dropping it, he leans in and stubbornly asks her to hurry up and share the snacks. Hari hesitates nervously as she picks up another snack. She softly asks him to settle down, but Minwoo simply encourages her to join in. He gives her a firm, reassuring look, leaving an overwhelmed Hari feeling thoroughly flustered. Meanwhile, an awkward silence fills the front of the car. Both Soko and Nari feel trapped in complete discomfort. Soko silently realizes that Hari and Minwoo must be remarkably close, while Nari mentally agrees that the unusual setup in the back feels seriously dynamic. Unable to stand the quiet atmosphere any longer, Soko turns around to ask Hari if she is doing all right, while Nari quickly chimes in to check on her sister as well. This sudden attention leaves Minwoo nervous, frantically hoping they do not catch on to the secret PT lesson happening right under their noses. The rental car screeches to a halt outside the beautiful resort cabins, signaling their arrival. The group eagerly asks which cabin is theirs, with someone confirming they are staying in room 203 and using the door code 0410. Before anyone can even think about unpacking, Syoko and Nari are left completely dumbfounded. They watch in shock as Minwoo assists an exhausted Hari into the cabin. Minwoo quickly explains that she suffered from severe car sickness, promising to help her rest inside and return shortly. The remaining friends look on with curiosity, with one admitting he had no idea she got carsick, while another wonders if it was because she sat all the way in the back. Meanwhile, Soko is practically drowning in his own regret, wishing he had put her in the front seat next to him so he could have been the one to help her inside. His wallowing is suddenly cut short by a lively shout. Soko's older sister, Yoo-hee, rushes out to warmly welcome the group. The friends happily thank her for the invitation, and Yoo-hee generously reassures them that they deserve a break from their tough studies. She offers to show them around the swimming pool and the campsite, wishing them a wonderful stay. The group cheers enthusiastically, calling her absolutely amazing. However, Yoo-hee quickly notices her younger brother looking incredibly downcast. She asks Syoko what is wrong, but the depressed younger brother can only weakly call out to his sister. While Syoko sulks, the focus shifts to Minwoo's own internal struggles over the past month. He has been trying to take things easy during his gym sessions with Hari, sticking to brief study sessions without overdoing it. This strict restraint has unfortunately left him feeling unfulfilled, prompting him to spend late nights reviewing notes just to clear his head. Minwoo frustratedly questions why he put so much pressure on himself, though he knows deep down it was his way of being considerate to Hari after going a bit too far during their very first gym sesh. Back in the present, Minwoo steps out of the cabin, leaving Hari resting after she practically passed out from their intense car ride. Minwoo smiles to himself, realizing that since Hari was the one who initiated the plan this time, they can probably schedule these outings more often. He eagerly resolves to take their next private PT coaching to the proper level. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted by a sudden movement. Out of nowhere, Yoo-hee rushes forward to greet him with a sudden wave of enthusiasm. She happily calls out his name, startling Minwoo so much that he can barely utter a word as the surprise greeting throws them both off balance. The resort trip quickly takes a wild turn when Yoo-hee warmly welcomes Minwoo, noting how long it has been since they last saw each other. Minwoo feels thoroughly nervous as he agrees it has indeed been a while, while Yoo-hee playfully greets him and comments on how much he has grown. Observing the interaction, the friends in the background are completely shocked, with one pointing out that they have never seen Minwoo panic like this, and the other fully agreeing. Minwoo internally notes that Soko's older sister is not someone he can easily deal with, vividly recalling when he was 20 years old and went over to her place for a part-time job. Back then, a young Minwoo arrived a bit early, dressed in a police uniform, and nervously called out to Yoo-hee, wondering if he really had what it takes to be a model. After hearing a sudden loud noise, he stepped further inside and discovered what she was working on. To his surprise, he walked right into an unconventional photo shoot. A model was posing with various complex stage props scattered across the floor, surrounded by assistants in costume. When Yoo-hee noticed Minwoo and casually mentioned that he was early and ready for the main shoot, an overwhelmed Minwoo immediately turned and ran. He did not stop until he was completely clear of her apartment, even losing one of his slippers along the way. Afterward, Yoo-hee bombarded his phone with messages, offering to pay him extra, apologizing for scaring him, and asking to reschedule. Minwoo hoped that would be the last time he ever had to face her, but he simply could not deny Hari this resort trip. Back in the present, Yoo-hee steps closer and playfully whispers that she brought plenty of specialized equipment specifically because she heard he was coming. Taken aback by her teasing, Minwoo steps back, loudly declaring that he has no interest in those kinds of activities. Nearby, one of the friends comments that they must know each other very well, leaving Nari standing in quiet silence. Wanting to put an end to the awkward display, Nari clears her throat. She holds up a package of pork belly with a smile and suggests they go prepare dinner. Soon enough, the awkwardness fades as they fire up the grill, cooking pork belly and shrimp over the flames. The delicious pork belly and shrimp sizzle over the hot grill. Nari happily enjoys her food, enthusiastically praising Minwoo as the best cook. Minwoo smiles cheekily and playfully tells her not to eat so fast, teasingly calling her a pig. Sitting at the table, Nari immediately gets defensive, shooting back that she only weighs 43 kilograms. Just as they are bickering, Hari quietly steps out of the cabin, wrapped in a large yellow blanket, and softly greets the group. Seeing her, Soko instantly brightens up and excitedly stands up, inviting her to come sit right next to him. Minwoo also turns to her, asking if she feels any better and telling her to grab some food. Hari softly confirms that she is indeed feeling much better. Standing nearby, Yoo-hee takes a sip of her drink and asks Syoko if this is indeed Hari, which Syoko blushingly and happily confirms. Yoo-hee locks her eyes on Hari with an intense smile. She approaches Hari and immediately invites her to have a drink together. Before a startled Hari can even respond, both Minwoo and Nari fiercely protest in unison. Minwoo quickly points out that Hari cannot drink, while Nari firmly warns Yuhi not to give her sister any alcohol. Yuhi rests her cheek on her hand, looking mildly disappointed. She sighs, remarking that she had no idea Hari was such a quiet girl, especially since she planned on drinking tonight. The blunt comment deeply affects Hari's pride. Determined to prove herself, Hari suddenly declares that she will join in the drinking tonight. Nari is taken aback, nervously asking her sister if she is absolutely sure about this and suggesting she start with just a small sip. Hari resolutely agrees. Seeing the sudden burst of energy, the blonde friend happily jumps up, cheering and proposing that they all play the king game. The rest of the group agrees, thinking it will be a lot of fun. Hari sheepishly admits she does not know how to play those kinds of party games. Yuhi asks if she at least knows the rules of the king game, and Hari nervously confirms she does. Meanwhile, Minwoo grumbles in the background, questioning if it is not way too early for the king game since they have barely started drinking. Yuhi completely dismisses his complaints, cheerily declaring that since she is in charge, it will be incredibly fun. She instructs everyone to grab a chopstick to start the selection process. Offering the chopsticks, Yuhi promises they will take things nice and slow. Nearby, one of the friends watches in nervous anticipation, secretly hoping the chopsticks match him up with Nari. The first command card is drawn, ordering players number 1 and number 5 to wave at each other. Hari freezes in surprise as she realizes she holds chopstick number 1. A split second later, Syoko excitedly reveals that he has chopstick number 5. The group instantly realizes they have a match. Yuhi cheerfully tells them to participate, urging them to hurry up since the game is much more fun when played at a fast pace. Soko is internally cheering, thrilled that his luck is finally turning. Blushing heavily, he turns to Hari and asks if she wants him to go ahead with the interaction. Hari is in a complete panic, sniffling as she desperately worries that Yuhi will call her boring again if she refuses to participate. Encouraged by his sister to act like a leader, Soko slowly turns toward her. A deeply flustered Hari covers her face, weakly calling his name and declaring that she would rather just take the penalty shot. Before she can even reach for a glass, a sudden, loud slam echoes across the table. Minwoo huffs and puffs as he aggressively steps in as her designated proxy, drinking the penalty shot on her behalf to save her from the awkward situation. The rest of the friends laugh and cheer, thoroughly enjoying the dramatic display. The fun quickly continues as Yuhi announces the next command, ordering numbers 5 and 4 to exchange high fives. To everyone's absolute shock, Hari nervously sighs that she has been chosen once again, meaning it is her and Soko for a second consecutive round. Minwoo immediately yells out his role as her proxy, pouring himself another massive drink and gulping it down. Yuhi moves on to the next command, ordering numbers 2 and 7 to give a polite wave, only to realize with amusement that it is somehow Hari and Soko for the third time in a row. The other guys at the table sweat nervously, whispering to each other that they are starting to suspect the entire game is completely rigged. Without hesitation, a highly flushed and determined Minwoo bellows his cry as the proxy once again, chugging down yet another heavy penalty shot to protect Hari. The relentless drinking game continues, and when the next card orders players number 1 and number 4 to perform a command, Minwoo immediately bellows out his cry as her defender. Yuhi loses her temper completely, calling for Hari and Soko to just follow the rules already. The heavily intoxicated Minwoo refuses to back down, stubbornly shouting for the next penalty shot. Eventually, the sheer volume of alcohol catches up to him. Minwoo groans in absolute exhaustion, his face burning red as he teeters on the edge of passing out. Seeing his current state, Soko admits he has never seen Minwoo like this before. Nari decides she has seen enough and offers to walk our boy back to his room. As they prepare to leave, one of the friends asks Hari to help clean up the campsite, and she politely agrees to stay behind and assist. Supporting the heavily wobbling Minwoo, Nari slowly guides him back. Stumbling with every step, a completely drunken Minwoo proudly slurs that he successfully protected Hari. Nari quietly tells him to just focus on walking straight. Minwoo closes his eyes, internally questioning if this proof means he is a good friend after all. Nari looks at him with a soft, gentle expression, asking what he means by that. As he rests his head near her shoulder, she silently wonders if that is truly how he normally views himself, realizing he can actually be quite sweet. She tells him not to worry, and a dazed Minwoo sleepily murmurs that she was actually pretty cool tonight. Soon enough, Minwoo is safely tucked into his bed in room 503, sleeping soundly and completely passed out. Meanwhile, back at the campsite, Soko looks around and asks where Hari went, with the other friends noting in confusion that she was right there just a moment ago. Having slipped away from the cleanup, Hari quietly tiptoes into the dark room. Remembering how bravely he smiled while acting as her proxy all night, she looks down at the sleeping Minwoo. With a blushing face, she tenderly leans over the bed to leave a gentle gesture of gratitude for protecting her. The second day of the trip arrives, bringing bright blue skies and beautiful weather. Minwoo wakes up with a giant yawn and stretches as he heads out to the resort pool. Sitting by the water, he watches his friends splashing around and having an absolute blast. However, Minwoo feels completely dazed, admitting to himself that he cannot remember how he fell asleep last night, nor can he recall a single detail about how the party ended. His groggy thoughts are interrupted when Nari approaches him in a sleek black swimsuit, asking our boy if he has seen Hari. A bit surprised, Minwoo blushes slightly and answers that he has not seen her at all this morning. He casually notes that she looks completely different with her hair down, to which Nari confidently replies that she already knows. When one of the friends calls for her to join them in the pool, Nari happily giggles and runs off. Watching her walk away, Minwoo reflects on how much she has grown up. He remembers back when they were kids and a crying young Nari was terrified of the water, forcing him to keep her company to comfort her. Just as he is reflecting on the past, Yuhi and the blonde friend call out to ask if everyone is having fun. The blonde friend excitedly announces that they are heading out to do some grocery shopping. Before leaving, Yuhi gives a confident look toward Minwoo and casually mentions that she will see him later this evening. This leaves Minwoo extremely confused, wondering why she specifically singled him out for an evening meetup. Seeing her expression, he tries to brush it off, convincing himself that it is probably nothing to worry about. Suddenly, someone lightly taps him on the shoulder. Minwoo turns around in confusion, only to find Hari standing there, softly greeting him. To his absolute surprise, she is wearing an elegant white swimsuit. Hari looks deeply embarrassed, recalling how Yuhi had relentlessly mocked her original pink swimsuit for looking childish, eventually pressuring her into wearing one of her own instead. Under her breath, Hari admits that although she borrowed the outfit from Yuhi, it is far too small for her. Standing behind her, Minwoo is completely transfixed, thinking to himself that she looks stunning. Blushing deeply, Hari turns to him and asks if she looks strange. A flustered Minwoo can barely sputter a response, so to distract himself, he quickly hands her a popsicle and suggests she have some ice cream. Hari happily thanks him and accepts it. She sits by the edge of the pool and starts eating the popsicle. Minwoo watches her intently, but his distraction is suddenly shattered when a wave of water splashes right into his face. It is Nari, who playfully laughs and asks our boy if he is going to get into the pool. Wiping the water from his face, Minwoo grumbles at her. Turning back to Hari, Minwoo asks if she wants to go into the water together. Hari hesitates, nervously admitting that she barely secured her swimsuit and worries it might come loose if she swims. This revelation makes Minwoo feel completely flustered. He quickly decides that he will stay out of the water too, sitting right next to her. Nearby in the pool, Nari looks at them in annoyance, while Hari simply giggles. As they sit together, the popsicle starts melting in the warm sun, dripping directly onto Hari's outfit. Realizing she needs to hurry, she quickly eats the melting ice cream. Minwoo watches the scene with a flushed face, finding it difficult to look away. Unable to handle the moment any longer, Minwoo gestures for Hari to follow him. She looks back in surprise as he quietly guides her away from the pool, asking where they are heading. Just as Minwoo slips away with Hari, Soko suddenly appears and asks what he is doing there all by himself. Minwoo is left thoroughly nervous, wondering how his friend even managed to find him in such a secluded spot. Unbeknownst to Syoko, right behind the short partition, Hari and Minwoo are actually holding a private PT class. In a state of pure panic, Minwoo pleads with Soko to stay right where he is and not to come any closer, suggesting they just talk from a distance. Standing on the other side of the deck, Syoko decides to be completely honest, bluntly confessing that he actually likes Hari. Minwoo reacts with stress as Soko apologizes for dropping the news so late, admitting he understands if Minwoo feels surprised. Soko notes that he knows Minwoo has a very special relationship with Hari, but before he can take another step forward to talk about the previous night, Minwoo frantically raises his hand and commands him to stay right where he is. Behind the barrier, Hari continues her dedicated gaming session on his iron staff, her eyes tearing up from the effort. Minwoo is practically losing his mind from the intense visual, weakly asking Soko to keep his distance. Confused by his friend's strange behavior, Soko asks what is wrong. Realizing he needs to act serious, Minwoo covers his mouth to mask his heavy breathing, letting out a sigh and explaining that he is just a little confused right now and needs some time to process everything. Soko then drops the ultimate irony, asking Minwoo if he can help him hook up with Hari. Minwoo is left completely speechless, internally screaming at the sheer absurdity of his friend asking him to play matchmaker at the exact moment Hari is taking a private PT lesson. Soko sighs and walks away, agreeing that Minwoo is probably right to take time to process things. As he heads back, Soko tells him to just think about it, assuring him that he only has the best intentions when it comes to Hari. Minwoo is left standing there, completely exhausted from the incredibly close call. The gym training continues while Hari works hard through the routine under Minwoo's direction. Nearby, Yuhi freezes in shock, whispering no under her breath as she watches. This is not the Minwoo she remembers. Her mind flashes back. High heels click across the pavement until her wallet hits the ground with a solid thud. A young Minwoo, still in his school uniform, spots it and picks it up, calmly telling her she dropped her wallet. Yoo-hee takes it with a soft "oh my," brushing her hair aside as she looks him over. She thanks him warmly, admitting she would have lost it if not for him. Minwoo stammers an awkward "no problem." Sweat already forming as a friend calls out for him to come play some games. He answers with a quiet "oh, okay" and bows, telling her he will see her around. Yoo-hee waves him off with a cheerful "okay, have fun," watching our boy leave while holding her wallet tightly. That encounter left a deep mark. He was someone who invoked intense frustration in her. Our boy looked so adorable, yet he could not even meet her eyes. Yoo-hee remembers thinking how she would one day make sure she thoroughly outplayed that innocent guy in a competitive match. It all felt like yesterday. Now she stands in her stylish swimsuit, walking with confident steps in her heels. Yet here he is all grown up, currently busy completing a personal study session with this innocent girl through another intense round of coaching. We start with Yoo-hee, who is completely overwhelmed and unable to process the intense thoughts of the personal study session she recently witnessed. Meanwhile, at a local karaoke bar, Seoko is busy pouring his heart and soul into a dramatic love song. He sings with pure passion, sweating through his shirt as he holds the microphone tight. Unfortunately, his only audience member is less than impressed. Sitting on the couch, Yoo-hee watches his dramatic performance with a look of absolute pity. Once he finishes, Seoko eagerly turns to his sister, asking if she thinks a woman like Hari would be touched by such an emotional performance. Yoo-hee can only stare back in absolute silence. Internally, she is fully aware of the tragic truth that Hari is already completely loyal to our boy, heart and mind. Unaware of his sister's heavy thoughts, Seoko happily announces that he has prepared another song called The Love Idiot. Before he can start, Yoo-hee suddenly holds out a hand in desperation, pleading with him to stop. She bluntly tells him to forget about the songs and to drop his feelings for Hari altogether, promising that she will find him a much cooler and more open-minded girl instead. But Seoko immediately pushes back, raising his hands in protest and declaring that he only has eyes for Hari because of how sweet and polite she is. He insists that no one else will ever do. Yoo-hee can only laugh nervously, sweating as she silently reflects on his cluelessness regarding Hari's actual background. The scene shifts back to the kitchen, where a large pot of soup is boiling hot on the stove. Nari notices the steam rising and calls out to her sister that the food is about to boil over. Hari quickly turns around with a startled gasp, looking remarkably flustered. As Hari prepares to serve the meal, Nari stands by the refrigerator, looking completely bewildered. She cannot help but realize that her older sister suddenly looks far more stylish and mature than usual, almost as if she has undergone a major personal transformation. Hari steps over to the table and carefully places the steaming pot down, presenting a delicious-looking stew to the hungry group. Our boy and his friends can only watch in absolute awe as she warmly tells them to enjoy. Her bright expression and fitted outfit leave the entire table completely stunned, with everyone reacting with surprise at her sudden mature charm. Unable to keep his thoughts to himself, one of our boy's friends nudges him and asks if Hari does not look remarkably stylish for some reason. Our boy tries to play it cool, sweating nervously as his friend reflects on how Hari suddenly seems like a completely different person. As our boy's friends continue to admire Hari's sudden mature glow, our boy quietly eats his meal. Our boy notices that Hari has been spacing out quite a bit since their special day, and while he admits to himself that it is partly his fault, he silently realizes that he enjoyed every single second of their back workout. Their peaceful lunch is quickly interrupted when our boy's friends eagerly try to offer help, suggesting they wash the dishes with Hari. This immediately irritates our boy, who can only glare at them in silent frustration. To ease the tension, Hari brings over a fresh plate of rolled omelets. She sits near our boy and holds a piece up on a spoon, cutely prompting him to open wide. Although a highly embarrassed Minwoo protests that he is already full, Hari sweetly insists that he should eat a lot. Minwoo has no choice but to take the bite, leaving his friends watching the cozy display in utter envy and disbelief. Later that night, Minwoo stands in the kitchen, completely exhausted after washing all the dishes. He marvels at how Hari manages to handle such back-breaking chores on a daily basis. He recalls how he only ended up at the sink in the first place because he was so annoyed by his friends trying to chat up Hari. To relieve her of the workload, he had firmly stepped in and declared that he would do the dishes, urging a tired Hari to go get some rest. With the chores finally finished, Minwoo quietly slips into the dark room where everyone else is already fast asleep. He rests on his bedding, reflecting on how staying in the same room brings back nostalgic memories of his childhood. He sleepily looks forward to the next 2 days of the resort trip, imagining what it will be like to play in the water with Hari and Nari tomorrow. However, his peaceful rest is suddenly cut short by a wild and unexpected turn of events. Minwoo wakes up in a complete panic to find Yoo-hee standing right over him in her athletic outfit. With a mischievous expression, she insists that they begin a secret midnight study session, while the rest of the group remains completely oblivious. The bright morning sun rises over the resort cabins, but Minwoo is already lying flat on the wooden floor, looking completely exhausted. Suddenly, Nari's loud voice cuts through the quiet as she finds him sleeping there. Dressed in her sports gear, she stands nearby and demands to know why on earth he is sleeping on the floor, explaining that she has been looking everywhere for him. Minwoo jolts awake in a panic, desperately asking where Hari is. Nari explains that since Hari couldn't find him, she already left for today's camping trip. A highly concerned Minwoo asks if she went with Yuhi, which Nari confirms is likely. She adds that Hari kept looking for him before she left. Our boy's mind flashes back to earlier that morning. Hari had turned around to search for him, but Soko and the others urged her to just head out first. To make matters worse, Yuhi had stepped in and practically guided Hari away. Our boy's imagination instantly runs wild, picturing a mischievous Yuhi taking complete advantage of an upset, defenseless Hari. Terrified by his own thoughts, our boy internally screams in denial. Soon after, our boy and Nari head into the lush forest to catch up with the group. As they walk along the forest trail, Nari notices how completely exhausted our boy looks and warns him to be careful since this part of the path is dangerous. Despite looking like a zombie, our boy insists they must hurry. He then asks Nari why she did not join the rest of the group earlier. Nari walks ahead, wearing her practical athletic outfit. She playfully pouts, telling him that she has no intention of sharing her reasons with him. Our boy sighs, muttering that it is none of his business anyway, which immediately draws an annoyed reaction from Nari. As they keep walking, our boy struggles to stay upright, completely drained of energy. He wonders why on earth he feels so incredibly tired when he thought he got plenty of sleep, desperately trying to piece together what actually happened after he passed out during his wild midnight study session with Yuhi. Seeing him stumble, Nari steps near and asks if he wants to just head back, bluntly pointing out that he looks absolutely exhausted. Our boy tries to play it tough, claiming he is fine since it is their very last day at the resort. Staring at his stubborn attitude in silent disbelief, Nari suddenly gives a firm push to encourage him, telling him to stop acting so weak as she playfully jogs ahead, forcing a flustered young man to speed up and keep pace. After telling him to stop acting so weak, Nari suddenly dashes ahead. She crouches down on the forest trail with her back turned to him, playfully inviting him to join in. Our boy is completely dumbfounded, sarcastically asking if she is actually kidding. But when Nari challenges him, acting like he lacks the courage to do it, our boy confidently steps up. He steps forward to challenge her, proudly asking if she really thought he would not. Their playful competition immediately goes wrong. With a loud crash, they both lose their footing and tumble into the thick bushes on the side of the trail. Unfortunately for Nari, the clumsy fall results in her badly spraining her ankle. Because of her injury, our boy has no choice but to help Nari along the path. Looking weary and annoyed, our boy grumbles, asking if this is the outcome she actually wanted. A blushing Nari barks back, telling him to quiet down because it really hurts, while our boy advises her not to play such foolish pranks on him in the future. As they continue down the quiet trail, Nari admits that being helped along like this feels like a total case of deja vu. When our boy realizes she is referring to when they were little, Nari confirms his thought. Suddenly, our boy remembers the childhood memory. Back when they were kids, young Nari was falling, and young Minwoo tried to save her, resulting in both of them tumbling into the bushes together. Even though young Nari cried, she admits she was not actually that hurt and was simply terrified. She reminds him that he was the brave one who ended up covered in scratches and bandages on her behalf. Hearing his thoughts, Nari realizes he just used her name, questioning when he started doing that. Our boy quickly tells her not to interrupt his flow. Nari sighs, resting nearby and noting that those are all just memories now. She playfully teases him, pointing out that he used to follow her everywhere, but now he has turned into a completely different person. As they walk, Nari shifts the conversation back to the past, suddenly asking our boy why on earth he threw away her letter. Just as raindrops begin to tap around them and a sudden downpour starts, a completely confused Minwoo can only look back, genuinely wondering what letter she is even talking about. As the rain pours down heavily in the forest, our boy and Nari are relieved to find an old wooden cabin to shelter themselves from the storm. Stepping inside, Nari lets out a heavy sigh, incredibly grateful to have found a roof but complaining about being completely soaked from head to toe. Feeling the chill of the storm, Nari adjusts her wet hoodie, noting that it must be the start of the rainy season. She turns to a flustered Minwoo and insists that he needs to dry off his wet clothes as well, warning him that he will catch a cold if he stays dressed like that. After changing into dry clothes to warm up, Nari sits down across from a blushing Minwoo. She playfully asks if they really have to sit so far apart in such a cold cabin. She then tells him to come over and rest so they can share some warmth. Just as the atmosphere settles, the wooden door suddenly creaks open. A mysterious dark silhouette with bright eyes peers into the room, instantly sending shockwaves of pure panic through the pair. Completely terrified, our boy and Nari freeze together, shouting in surprise as they demand to know who is standing in the doorway. To their absolute shock, the creepy figure is revealed to be none other than a completely drenched Hari, who weakly calls out to them with wet leaves sticking to her messy hair. Staring in pure disbelief, our boy and Nari can only gasp her name, frantically demanding to know what on earth happened to her out in the wild storm. We start with a flashback showing Yuhi standing near Hari and playfully questioning her about her fashion choices. An embarrassed Hari can only cover her face, admitting she does not even know, while our boy's friends and the blonde girl watch the surprising display in complete awe. Looking at her impressive appearance, Yuhi suggests that Hari must be incredibly popular with men. However, Soko blushingly chimes in, declaring that Hari has actually never been with anyone, proudly claiming they are both in the same single boat. Stunned by this revelation, Yuhi asks Hari if she really does not have a boyfriend. As a flustered Hari hesitates to answer, Yuhi leans over and whispers a pointed question, noting that if Hari is truly single, that must mean our boy is completely fair game. Back in the present, the group at the lodge notices the dark clouds rolling in, predicting heavy rain. As they excitedly discuss making pancakes, a completely dejected Hari sits quietly in the background, her mind spinning from Yuhi's teasing words. Suddenly, standing up, she quietly announces that she wants to go for a walk. Even though Soko frantically offers to join her in the pouring rain, Hari quickly declines and runs off into the storm. Running through the wet forest trail, Hari cannot get Yuhi's words out of her head. Realizing that she deeply misses our boy and wants to protect her special connection with him, she walks deeper into the pouring rain to find him. Just as she is about to give up, she spots the old wooden cabin nestled in the trees. Cut back to the present day inside the dry cabin, where Hari is now safely resting under a blanket between our boy and Nari. Having heard the story of their clumsy tumble into the bushes, Hari asks if that is truly what happened. Seated between both sisters, a blushing Minwoo confirms the story. Shivering from the cold and the scary experience, Hari speaks up about how incredibly dangerous the whole situation was. On his other side, Nari agrees with her sister, pointing out how terrifying it is to be stuck up in the dark, rainy mountains. Resting together in the small room, Hari tries to explain herself, but our boy firmly cuts her off, telling her there are no excuses. He asks what she would have done if she had gotten completely lost in the mountains. Looking directly at her, he sincerely warns her never to try anything so reckless again. A blushing Hari giggles and happily promises to listen, smiling as he gives her a stern look. As the three of them settle back down, a loud growl suddenly echoes through the cabin. Hari blushes furiously as she sheepishly realizes she is absolutely starving. She gets up and searches through her bag, dressed in her casual loungewear. With a bright smile, she proudly pulls out a package of ramen. Our boy and Nari's faces instantly light up with pure joy as they shout in excitement. Since they have no hot water, they crush up the raw noodles, toss in the seasoning, and dig in. Nari admits that the raw snack actually tastes incredible when you are hungry, happily thanking her sister for saving the night. Listening to the heavy rain still pouring outside, Nari suggests that if the storm does not let up, they should just sleep there for the night, warmly admitting she does not mind the shared space at all. Our boy, however, suddenly lets out a quiet apology. When Nari asks what he is apologizing for, our boy guiltily explains that their final day was ruined because he slept in too late. This uncharacteristic politeness immediately prompts Nari to tease him playfully, jokingly demanding that the polite evil spirit leave his body. Our boy rubs his cheek, wondering why he got teased for apologizing, but Nari simply smiles, resting on the pillow and warmly assuring him that she actually thinks this is a very fun trip anyway, as long as the three of them are together. Resting nearby, our boy lies awake, realizing this will be an unforgettable night. While resting under the blanket, Nari wonders if they have any plans once they return home. Hari shyly pipes up, admitting with a sigh that she really wants to try on more stylish and trendy outfits. Our boy then shocks both sisters by announcing his plan to look for a part-time job, confessing that he cannot keep relying on them forever. This sudden burst of maturity leaves both Hari and Nari staring at him in absolute shock. A flustered Minwoo asks why they are making those faces, prompting Nari to playfully tease him, remarking that our boy has finally grown up. Hari eagerly chimes in, praising our boy as absolutely amazing. Getting playfully bold, Nari steps near and offers a reward with more affectionate praise. Our boy can only let out a heavy sigh, wondering if they are doing this simply because they view him as a younger brother. Hari quickly joins in on the fun, giggling happily alongside her sister. Unable to take their endless teasing, our boy speaks up firmly, warning them that they had better stop immediately. The sudden shift in tone leaves Nari and Hari reacting in pleasant surprise. Later, as the heavy rain continues to crash against the wooden roof, the storm shows no signs of stopping. Nari eventually drifts off to sleep, placing a cloth over her eyes to block out the light. With Nari fast asleep, our boy lies awake in the dark cabin, completely unable to rest. He turns over to look at Hari, who is sleeping peacefully beside him. As his thoughts wander, he looks toward her in the quiet of the night, his mind suddenly drifting back to his wild midnight study session with Yuhi. An intriguing thought crosses his mind, and he cannot help but wonder what would happen if he initiated the exact same type of personal study session with Hari. Birds chirp over the quiet forest cabin as a brand new morning begins. Outside, our boy, Hari, and Nari stand together, looking remarkably awkward. Our boy cannot help but steal nervous glances at Hari, desperately wondering if Nari noticed anything. Seeing Nari walk ahead in silence, his anxiety hits an all-time high. He nervously reflects on how active they were during their late-night study session, desperately hoping that Nari somehow did not hear or see them. He shuddered to think of what would have happened if she did catch them. He vividly imagines Nari scolding him harshly, yelling at him while he begs for forgiveness. Since Nari has not confronted him yet, he tries to reassure himself that everything must be fine. His paranoid thoughts are suddenly shattered when Hari stumbles with a gasp. Our boy quickly steadies her, asking his favorite older girl if she is all right. Hari blushes warmly and thanks him, sheepishly explaining that she is simply very tired after last night's long session. Smiling happily, she runs back up the steps to grab her bag. Nari stands further ahead on the trail, hands on her hips as she coldly tells them to hurry up so they can finally head back. Our boy quickly agrees, but he cannot help but notice that Nari seems to be acting even colder toward him than usual, though he tries to brush it off as just his imagination. As they walk down the path, Hari walks alongside our boy. She offers a sweet and reassuring smile that instantly eases his tension. Soon enough, they reunite with the rest of their friends, who wave excitedly and yell out that they have been searching everywhere for them. The friends eagerly brag about how much fun they had yesterday, jokingly complaining that they had to go on without them. Our boy nervously rubs his neck and explains that the three of them simply got lost in the woods. Seeing them together, a friend playfully suggests that they must have found a cozy place to stay anyway. The group gathers outside by the rental car, preparing to wrap up their chaotic resort trip. Out of nowhere, Sako runs up to Hari, his face filled with worry as he asks if she ended up getting hurt while she was lost in the rainy woods. Our boy looks on silently while Yuhi playfully chimes in, pointing out that Syoko spent all of yesterday frantically searching for her. Blushing heavily, Hari tries to reassure them, innocently blurting out that she is completely fine because our boy did a wonderful job helping her dry off last night. This innocent remark immediately triggers the guys. Soko and his friend turn bright red with jealousy, demanding to know exactly how our boy managed to help her. Sweating under their intense glares, our boy quickly tells them to drop it and suggests they just get in the car and finally head home. Calling the guys total weirdos, they finish tossing their luggage into the trunk. As they prepare to hit the road, Syoko tries to act smooth by offering Hari the comfortable front passenger seat. However, Hari firmly turns down the offer, reaching straight for the back door and declaring that she wants to sit next to our boy instead. As she opens the door, her heart instantly sinks. Sitting in the back is a highly panicked young man, sporting a bright red smudge on his cheek. Seated nearby is Yuhi, who wears a sly smile as she casually welcomes Hari to the back seat. Hari is left frozen in place, staring in silence at the unexpected sight. The ride back begins with an immediate standoff. Yuhi points out that there are no empty seats left in the back, prompting Hari to stand at the open door, locking eyes with her. In that silent gaze, Hari instinctively realizes that Yuhi is intentionally taking up space. Yuhi smugly advises Hari to just go sit in the front passenger seat next to Soko. This suggestion sparks an intense, silent fury inside Hari, who absolutely refuses to accommodate this arrangement and yield her spot next to our boy. Meanwhile, Syoko happily points out that the seat next to him is completely empty. Paying no mind to the rising tension, Yuhi continues to act comfortable near a highly uncomfortable young man, complaining about how cramped the back seat is. Trapped in the middle of the awkward display, Nari bluntly tells everyone to quiet down. Standing outside the car, Hari takes a deep breath to encourage herself. Gathering her courage for the very first time in her life, she grips her jacket tightly and firmly demands that Yuhi move because that seat belongs to her. Our boy's eyes go wide in absolute shock at Hari's sudden burst of bravery, but Yuhi is not easily intimidated. She simply leans forward with a mockingly sweet look, pretending she cannot hear a thing, and teasingly telling Hari to say it louder. Soon enough, the rental car is rolling down the highway. Unfortunately, Hari's brave stand did not go as planned, and she ends up stuck in the front passenger seat after all. Soko is absolutely thrilled with the seating arrangement, happily trying to strike up a conversation by asking about her choir days and mentioning how much he loves K-pop. Feeling completely out of place, a quiet Hari simply sits in uncomfortable silence, having no idea what to do. Things are even more chaotic in the back seat. Having claimed her spot, Yuhi sits right beside our boy. She cheerfully announces that since she is in such a great mood, she will treat everyone to refreshments for an after-party. This generous offer makes the other friends cheer wildly, gushing over how cool she is and how great her hair looks. Beneath the loud celebration, a secret and highly risky conversation is unfolding. Yuhi speaks to our boy, leaving him completely flustered. Leaning over, she quietly whispers, asking if he will be coming to the after party too. She glances toward him, and before a sweating young man can even protest, she gestures for him to listen, ready to initiate a highly daring private study session right in the middle of the packed car. The secret tension in the backseat quickly reaches a boiling point. Yoo-hee quietly prompts our boy, making him react nervously. Sweating bullets, a panicked young man desperately wonders what is wrong with her, frantically trying to adjust his posture. Looking calm and confident, Yoo-hee continues her playful distraction, silently realizing that he is completely flustered by her attention. Just as things are getting intense, the blonde friend in the backseat breaks the silence, asking our boy if he is still looking for a part-time job. Startled, our boy stammers that he does plan to keep searching once they get back. The blonde friend happily replies that she has a perfect opportunity for him tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Before she can even finish her sentence, Yoo-hee suddenly interrupts, directing a firm glare toward our boy. While the blonde friend reacts in shock at the sudden movement, Yoo-hee coldly reminds our boy that he previously claimed he did not want to do any part-time work. Staring directly into his eyes, Yoo-hee bluntly admits that she is very protective of his schedule. Our boy can only sweat in pure panic as a heavy, awkward silence fills the back seat, leaving their friends completely speechless. Just as quickly as she turns serious, Yoo-hee bursts into playful laughter. She giggles at our boy's startled expression, teasing him for taking her so seriously, and asking if she is not even allowed to joke. She playfully points at him, cooing over how surprised he looks, and asking the others if they agree. While the blonde friend laughs nervously and Nari watches in silent disapproval, the male friend asks what Yoo-hee is even doing. Although she laughed it off as a simple joke, Minwoo could still feel the lingering tension. He internally noted that based on the sheer force of her grip, Yoo-hee was actually completely serious. Trying to smooth over the awkwardness, the blonde friend complimented Yoo-hee on how pretty she looked, asking if she had gotten hair extensions, which Yoo-hee casually confirmed as they continued their journey. The playful teasing in the backseat continued while Yoo-hee casually chatted about a guy she had her eyes on, wondering what kind of person he actually was. Meanwhile, her hand shifted even closer to Minwoo. Sweating nervously, our boy frantically worried about Hari. Unable to tolerate the provocation any longer, he suddenly reached out with a firm gesture directly toward Yoo-hee to set a boundary. Catching her completely off guard, this sudden counterattack made Yoo-hee smile in amusement, whispering that he was being remarkably bold. A blushing Minwoo sternly whispered back, warning her to stop while he was still being polite. However, their quiet disagreement quickly took an awkward turn. Yoo-hee let out a sudden gasp as Minwoo's foot accidentally got tangled against her leg space. Glaring at her in pure frustration, our boy had no choice but to reluctantly promise to visit her store, which finally made a flustered Yoo-hee pause and calm down. As the sun set, the rental car pulled into a highway rest area. Hari remained fast asleep in the front passenger seat, completely oblivious to the silent rivalry brewing between her and Yoo-hee. Eventually, the vehicle arrived back at their apartment building under the cover of night. Everyone climbed out of the car, and the blonde friend happily thanked Seoko for the ride before quickly calling out to Minwoo, asking if he was going to join them for Yoo-hee's evening gathering. Carrying the still sleeping Hari on his back, our boy politely declined the offer, explaining that they were far too exhausted and needed to head straight home. Minwoo was startled as they walked away when Nari reached out to gently adjust Hari's clothes. Nari looked at them with a highly suspicious gaze, internally repeating our boy's words about them being tired, before turning back to glare at Yoo-hee, quietly questioning what that woman was actually trying to pull. Behind them, the group prepared to head to the gathering. The blonde friend happily waved goodbye, reminding Hari to follow her back on Instagram and wishing her a good rest, while Yoo-hee stood with her arms crossed, glaring at the departing trio with a highly displeased look. Walking under the warm glow of the streetlights, Minwoo let out a heavy sigh of relief, deeply grateful that he could finally head inside to rest. Stealing a quick glance at Nari walking silently beside him, he noticed her suddenly cut through the quiet night, hesitantly starting to speak. Nari finally broke the silence, asking our boy about the mysterious letter from their childhood. Caught completely off guard, Minwoo struggled to respond as his mind flashed back to the past. Years ago, a young Nari had eagerly handed him a heart-sealed note, asking him to read it only when he was alone and requesting a reply. Unfortunately, the letter ended up sitting right on top of his trash can, leaving an upset young Nari crying bitterly. Back in the present, a sweating Minwoo awkwardly admitted that he completely forgot about it, which caught Nari by surprise. However, she quickly brushed it off with a cheerful smile, teasingly telling him he did not actually need to know the details anyway. Shifting the focus, she reminded him to lay Hari down comfortably once they got inside, and suggested they stop by a convenience store first. Meanwhile, the gathering at the local pub had completely fizzled out. Since Minwoo and Hari headed home, Yoo-hee and Soko both decided to pack up and leave early as well. Sitting around a table of half-empty drinks and food, one of the remaining friends grumbled about the quiet atmosphere, pointing out how obvious it was that Soko liked Hari. The group continued to chatter, wondering how Minwoo could be so oblivious when the two were childhood best friends, especially since our boy repeatedly protected Hari during their party games. Crossing his arms, the friend with glasses started to suspect that something was off, questioning if there might actually be a quiet connection between Hari and Minwoo, which would make the rest of them the insensitive ones. However, the blonde friend quickly shut down their theory, confidently declaring that they were wrong. As the others turned to her in complete confusion, demanding to know who Minwoo actually liked, she took a slow, teasing sip of her drink. With a mischievous grin, she placed a finger to her lips and proudly announced that the girl our boy actually liked was her. A brand new morning began at the apartment building, and in the kitchen, a steaming pot of stew bubbled hot on the stove. Dressed neatly for the day, Hari happily tasted her cooking and smiled with satisfaction, declaring that the soup had turned out perfectly. Turning around with a bright smile, she called out to her younger sister, suggesting they call Minwoo so the three of them could enjoy a meal together. Just as she was planning the meal, Nari walked in fully dressed for the day. Slipping on her shoes and grabbing her purse, Nari explained that her university classes were starting up again this week, so Hari no longer needed to worry about making meals for her. A bit surprised, Hari worried about what her sister would eat, but Nari reassured her that she would simply grab a quick bite once she arrived on campus. As Hari agreed, her mind suddenly drifted to a pleasant thought of having a quiet breakfast completely alone with Minwoo. With her heart thumping wildly at the pleasant thought, she resolved to go wake him up right away, while Nari waved goodbye and headed out the door. However, as Nari stepped out, she suddenly bumped into someone. To her absolute shock, she looked up to find a sharp and neatly dressed Minwoo, who was wearing a smart blazer and collared shirt. Stumbling over her words, a completely dazed Nari mentioned that she was heading out as well, baffled by the realization that the usually lazy gamer was already wide awake and fully dressed at such an early hour. From the kitchen, Hari watched the encounter with a soft blush, thinking to herself that Minwoo looked exceptionally stylish today. Hoping to clear things up, Nari asked where he was heading, and our boy revealed that he actually had an interview for a part-time job. Realizing their paths aligned, Nari asked which transit route he was taking, and upon hearing he was heading toward Line 2, she noted that they were traveling in the exact same direction. Hoping to keep him there, a flustered Hari quickly stepped forward, asking Minwoo to eat the warm soup she had prepared for him before he left. Minwoo looked back apologetically, thanking her for the kind gesture but explaining that he was running tight on time and might be late for his interview. He warmly promised to buy her something delicious later to make up for it, before stepping out the door with Nari. Left standing dejected in the kitchen, Hari could only watch them leave together, softly asking where they were going as Nari casually replied that she was simply heading off to class. Nari walked along in her stylish outfit, asking what kind of classes Minwoo was taking. Our boy clarified that he was taking vocal and dance lessons, along with improving his English skills. Looking at her formal attire, Minwoo asked if she felt comfortable dressed so smartly on the street. She simply replied that she was fine and asked why he wondered. He pressed whether her entertainment agency was trustworthy. Nari retorted that he was not her older brother and asked why he was worrying, then questioned where he was going to work. Minwoo answered that he was applying to work as a waiter. She smiled and said it sounded like an interesting opportunity. He mentioned that if he passed the interview, his shift would wrap up around 9 p.m. Nari told him to let her know when he returned and asked for a promise. The two exchanged a pinky promise. Minwoo wondered why she was acting so friendly, noting that she was an unpredictable person as expected. She reminded him to keep the promise this time. He laughed, thinking that if anyone heard them, they would assume he always broke promises, which was somewhat true. Nari's friends greeted her warmly as they arrived. She waved goodbye to our boy and said she would see him later. Minwoo replied with a nod and casually scratched his head as they parted ways. As the girls walked off, they talked about how Nari had been pretty since she was young and could become an idol. One friend asked if that was her boyfriend. Nari insisted he was just her uncle. They reacted in shock at the claim and noticed her face was flushed, asking if she was feeling unwell. Minwoo arrived at the restaurant, where staff welcomed him and mentioned the boss would arrive soon, instructing him to put on the uniform so they could explain the work details. Stepping into the staff-only area, he remarked that no one had mentioned the place was so large. Inside, he found a woman in heels organizing supplies from a box. Worried about failing the interview, our boy voiced his concern. The blonde woman reassured him that everything would be fine since they needed more staff, adding that she was the one who had recommended him. She handed over the uniform. Meanwhile, a coworker thought to himself about working hard so he could go on a trip with Hari, while also keeping Minwoo in mind. Our boy adjusted his tie while the blonde friend offered to help tie his apron strings from behind, to which he agreed. Minwoo reflected that she was very kind and recalled that she was Sako's childhood friend. While helping Minwoo adjust his uniform, his blonde coworker suddenly spoke with a bright smile and asked if there was someone he liked. Caught completely off guard, our boy blushed, wondering internally if his feelings were really that obvious. Smiling warmly, she followed up by asking when he actually planned to express his feelings to her. Crossing his arms, Minwoo took a serious moment to reflect, admitting that he would only make a move once he felt like he had become a stable, dependable person. As the blonde girl finished securing his apron strings from behind, her mind processed his words, and her face turned bright red. Her heart raced as she felt flustered and overwhelmed with excitement. Unable to contain her sudden embarrassment, she burst into laughter and gave our boy a gentle nudge from behind, leaving him completely baffled. Despite the awkward moment, Minwoo passed the job interview with absolute ease. However, the male boss seemed to take a strong liking to him, smiling broadly and asking if Minwoo had a girlfriend yet. Getting instant chills, our boy stammered that he did not, while the boss playfully teased that he would likely find one soon, as his blonde coworker cutely cheered in the background. Meanwhile, Hari received a phone call from her mother, who tried to push her into going on an arranged blind date, insisting that she needed to find a well-off partner. Hari hesitated, admitting she did not currently have a boyfriend, but firmly refused to go on an arranged date. Sitting alone while lost in thought, Hari felt deeply conflicted as her mother's pushy advice weighed heavily on her mind. Determined to change his life, Minwoo threw himself into his new waiter job, diligently taking down orders on his notepad, serving meals to customers with a confident smile, and working tirelessly across the restaurant floor. Back at the apartment, Hari went about her daily chores, but she found herself constantly lost in thought. After finishing her shower, she rested on her bed while holding a pillow, lost in deep thought about Minwoo as he took his first steps towards self-improvement. Lying on her bed, Hari tried to think of a way to escape the arranged date her mother was organizing. Suddenly, a strange thought crossed her mind, making her wonder about a long-term future with Minwoo. The idea made her sit upright on the mattress, her face flushing as her thoughts raced. Meanwhile, over at the restaurant, Minwoo successfully wrapped up his very first shift. The boss and staff praised his effort, insisting on hosting a welcoming dinner so everyone could get acquainted. Although Minwoo hesitated, his energetic blonde coworker gestured for him to join, encouraging him to attend the group dinner. Later that night, as 9 o'clock passed, Nari sat quietly on a bench under the glow of a streetlight. She rested on the ledge and let out a soft sigh, waiting alone in the cool night air. Minwoo's voice cut through the quiet as he called out her name. Surprised to see her still there, our boy asked if she was actually waiting for him, explaining that he got caught up after work and assumed she would have already headed home. Looking up with a gentle smile, Nari casually claimed she had only just arrived, and the two set off toward the apartment, walking side by side through the quiet neighborhood. Back at home, Hari decided to prepare for his return. She put on a stylish new white outfit, applied fresh lipstick, and arranged her hair with neat pink ribbons. Sitting patiently with flushed cheeks, she felt determined to welcome Minwoo properly the moment he walked through the door. As Minwoo and Nari walked home together under the night sky, our boy suddenly laughed, teasing her about the dramatic ways she turned down people who asked for her contact information. He brought up a past incident where she gave a bizarre excuse just to avoid sharing her details, asking if she simply disliked making new acquaintances. Nari sighed and held her forehead, exasperated by his teasing. However, Nari revealed that she actually had someone she was interested in. Surprised by the admission, Minwoo asked who the person was, teasingly wondering if she had met him during her vocal and dance training. Instantly regretting saying anything, Nari pouts and walks ahead in silence, while a playful Minwoo follows right behind, asking her to share the details. When they finally reach the apartment, Minwoo opens the front door planning to greet Hari, only to freeze in utter shock. Sitting right there is Hari, dressed in her stylish white ribbon outfit with flushed cheeks, softly greeting him. Panicking at the sight, Minwoo quickly ushers Nari back into the hallway, telling her she should stay over at his apartment tonight instead. A bewildered Nari questions why she would ever do that, but Minwoo closes the door, promising to treat her to drinks later to make it up to her. Left with little choice, Nari gets ready at Minwoo's place, wondering why he suddenly asked her to leave and why he always uses treats to bribe her. Resting comfortably, she questions why she listens to him, resolving that she needs to tease him properly later. As she sits there, her imagination wanders, picturing a serious conversation with Minwoo where he looks at her with an intense gaze, making her feel nervous. While Nari rests and wonders why her mind keeps drifting to thoughts about Minwoo, she ponders what he and Hari are actually up to right now. At that moment, Hari and Minwoo are focused on a private study session. Minwoo mentions that he has not even settled in yet, but Hari remains enthusiastic, keeping the study session going repeatedly. Minwoo soon realizes that lately, Hari has been greeting him with boundless enthusiasm, constantly eager for another PT lesson for back day. Their schedules become so intense that Minwoo finds himself returning late at night, stunned that they managed to continue their gym session late into the evening for a week straight. Looking over at Hari resting peacefully, he hopes she can wait a little longer until his payday arrives, especially since he is exhausted between their evening study sessions and frequent company dinners. As Minwoo rests quietly, Hari stares at the wall calendar. Time flies past rapidly, and before long, Minwoo's long-awaited payday is right around the corner. On the weekend, Hari prepares a delicious home-cooked meal while wearing a cute thematic outfit, asking if he really has to go to work. Minwoo apologetically explains that he has a prior commitment today. When a timid Hari cutely asks if he can just stay home and relax with her, our boy reveals that it is his boss's birthday party and he simply cannot miss it. Though secretly disappointed, Hari put on a sweet, supportive smile, telling him that he should definitely go celebrate his boss's birthday and wishing him a safe trip. Just as Minwoo left, Hari's phone suddenly began to buzz in her hands behind her back. Looking down at her screen, she saw a text notification pop up from her mother, warmly wishing her dear daughter a happy birthday. At 26 years old, Hari felt like she was having the worst birthday ever as she lay alone on her bed in deep disappointment. However, just as she sank into her sadness, her phone suddenly began to ring. Answering the call instantly, Hari lit up with pure joy when she heard Minwoo on the other end. Our boy explained that he had left something behind and asked if she could bring his ID card to his workplace. Overjoyed to be needed, Hari enthusiastically agreed to come right over. Fixing her hair and dressing up in a stylish outfit, Hari tried to convince herself that her birthday was not a big deal anyway, reflecting that simply being called by Minwoo whenever he needed her was more than enough to make her happy. Walking through the streets in her high heels, she drew admiring glances from people nearby as she arrived at the restaurant where Minwoo worked. Stepping up to the door, Hari pushed it open, only to be greeted by a loud pop as party poppers exploded, showering her in colorful confetti. As she stood there, in complete shock with blushing cheeks, Minwoo playfully asked why she took so long to arrive, politely guiding her toward a reserved table. To her absolute astonishment, sitting on the table was a gorgeous strawberry birthday cake alongside a delicate silver necklace. Minwoo reached over and carefully presented the sparkling necklace, softly wishing her a happy birthday. In the background, Minwoo's coworkers erupted into cheers and applause, loudly sharing that our boy worked tirelessly to prepare this special surprise and had only used his boss's birthday as a clever cover story. The male boss stepped forward with a warm smile, teasingly asking if she was disappointed by the lie, while an embarrassed Minwoo awkwardly scratched his head in shy satisfaction. As the male boss chucked that the birthday surprise was actually his idea, the rest of the restaurant staff sensed the emotional atmosphere and politely decided to make their exit, leaving Minwoo and Hari alone. Seeing tears suddenly stream down Hari's cheeks, a startled Minwoo gently stepped in, asking if she was crying. Hari quickly wiped her eyes, sniffling that she was fine, but a concerned Minwoo pressed further, asking if something was wrong as she continued to weep. Unable to hold back her feelings any longer, Hari opened up about her deepest insecurities. She tearfully confessed that she felt useless, constantly making mistakes, saying foolish things, and feeling like she was not good at anything. She admitted that she wished she could dress in stylish clothes, apply makeup, and speak naturally like someone Minwoo's age, feeling as though all she could ever do was clean, cook, and care for others. Listening intently, Minwoo softly reassured her, pointing out that being able to cook, clean, and look after someone was actually far more than what most people could manage. Scratching his neck awkwardly, he warmly told her that she simply did not recognize her own value, leaving Hari staring up at him with tear-filled eyes. Sniffling softly, Hari wondered out loud what things would have been like if she had been his age and his classmate instead. Her mind briefly drifted back to a daydream of herself as a high school student, leaning over a desk to ask Minwoo if he had finished his homework while offering to share hers. Minwoo reflected that even if Hari had been his age, she would have still ended up looking after him just the same. Hearing his comforting words, Hari smiled warmly through her tears, thanking him and declaring that this was officially the best birthday she had ever had. Suddenly, Minwoo signaled for her to follow, announcing that they were leaving right away. A flustered Hari asked where they were going, to which Minwoo responded that he was taking her somewhere else since he was no longer in the mood to work, promising to ask Seokwoo to cover his shift. He took her straight to Lotte World amusement park. Confetti and colorful balloons floated through the sky as Hari lit up with pure joy, mentioning how long it had been since she last visited. Watching her skip around with a radiant smile, our boy asked if she was truly that happy, amazed by how much she was enjoying their sudden outing. Standing near the Ferris wheel, Hari softly remarked how glad she was to spend this special time with Minwoo before heading off to the United States. Minwoo froze in shock, asking her to clarify what she meant. Hari explained that she was flying to the US for a month to meet her parents in person and firmly refused the blind dates they kept arranging for her, believing it was the right thing to do. She reassured him not to worry, mentioning that she had already arranged for Nari to handle his housework while she was away. Minwoo stood in heavy silence, desperately wanting to say something but finding himself unable to open his mouth, while Hari secretly wished to remain by his side. Noticing that her news about leaving for the US had made the mood heavy, Hari quickly tried to lighten the atmosphere by gesturing toward the attractions and excitedly proposing they go ride the spinning teacups. Determined to make the day special, Minwoo resolved to create an unforgettable memory before her departure. He warmly promised that since today was her birthday, he would do whatever she wanted, leaving Hari blushing as she pondered what they should do first. Hari excitedly spotted a costume rental shop and asked Minwoo to join her inside. She placed cute bunny ears on Minwoo while wearing cat ears herself, mentioning how adorable he looked. She then tried on a police officer uniform, playfully holding up prop handcuffs and declaring she was going to arrest him. However, the uniform proved to be too tight and burst a button, creating an awkward moment. Blushing in complete embarrassment, they ended up paying 87,000 won for the outfit. The excitement continued as they joined the crowd for the roller coaster, cheering with joy as they sped through the ride. Throughout the day, Minwoo and Hari created countless memorable moments. Minwoo playfully squished her cheeks while she made funny faces, and Hari happily posed with a giant teddy bear mascot. Our boy admitted to himself that it genuinely felt like he was on a pleasant outing with a close friend. As night fell over the park, they stood side by side, staring up at the glowing Ferris wheel. Heading toward the carousel for one last ride, an operator suddenly announced over the loudspeaker that only a single seat remained for the final turn of the night, leaving Hari softly sighing that it was a shame. Minwoo suggested that Hari ride the carousel anyway and offered to take her picture. Hari excitedly agreed, climbing onto a carousel horse and flashing a bright peace sign as Minwoo snapped the photo. Looking at her radiant expression, our boy found himself unable to hide his disappointment, realizing he would not be able to see that cheerful smile for a whole month. Noticing his somber mood, Hari stepped off the ride and walked over to him, drawing admiring glances from people nearby. Minwoo looked down at his phone, complimenting her by telling her that the picture turned out really well. Instead of just looking at the photo, Hari stepped forward with a warm gesture under the sparkling night lights of the park, sharing a quiet, heartfelt moment together. Looking toward a nearby hotel building, Minwoo resolved that if he was not going to see her for an entire month, he was definitely going to schedule a full month's worth of personal study sessions tonight. Inside the room, Minwoo adjusted his shirt while asking Hari if she liked the accommodations. Hari enthusiastically agreed, looking stunning in her outfit as she explored the space. Looking out the massive window at the sparkling city skyline, Hari admitted that she usually just stayed at home, mentioning that staying in a place like this felt like a special change from her usual routine. Minwoo steps up behind her, and they admire the breathtaking night view together. A quiet silence soon fills the room. Sitting on the soft bed, Hari grows noticeably shy and nervous. Sensing her hesitation, Minwoo steps closer, softly calling her name as the atmosphere settles. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Seokwoo is diligently sweeping the floors and wiping down tables late into the night. His blonde coworker tells him he can go home, but Seokwoo explains that he is working extra hard as Minwoo's substitute to score some points. The blonde girl chuckles and reveals the real reason Minwoo needed a sub, telling him that our boy threw a quiet surprise birthday party for Hari. This revelation leaves a completely stunned Seokwoo frozen in place, asking in utter disbelief how he had no idea about any of this. Back at the hotel, Minwoo and Hari focus on a private PT session. As Minwoo reviews the routine during their personal study session, he softly reminds her that today is her special birthday, keeping the evening relaxed and memorable. Minwoo recalls a moment from his past when he genuinely thought he was about to get caught. Back in his childhood, local kids teased young Minwoo, asking if he actually had feelings for Hari. Completely flustered and embarrassed, young Minwoo angrily denied everything, wildly swinging his arms and screaming that he hated her more than anyone else in the world. He admits that lashing out like that was just a defense mechanism to cope with the emotional pain left by his parents. However, his anger quickly melted into panic when he realized someone was standing directly behind him. Turning around, he found Hari looking over with her signature sweet smile, leaving young Minwoo sweating in pure embarrassment. Looking back on that day now, our boy wonders what kind of expression Hari was truly making behind that gentle smile, but he realizes he simply cannot remember. Back in the present day, a phone vibrates loudly on the desk. Minwoo notices the incoming call during their chest workout, but he decides he does not care at all and ignores it to keep his full attention on Hari. On the other end, Soko sighs as the call goes unanswered and cuts out. As his energetic blonde coworker cutely peeks over his shoulder, Soko is left standing in complete confusion and utter shock. In the hotel room, Hari wakes up completely exhausted, and Minwoo gently offers her a glass of water, explaining that she fell asleep and confirming they are in a motel. Resting quietly beside him, Hari bashfully asks if it makes her seem odd for falling asleep like that, but Minwoo warmly reassures her that he actually found it adorable. As they rest together on the bed, Minwoo speaks up to ask her a genuine question. He reflects on how mean and hostile he was to her when they were kids, wondering why she remained so kind to him despite everything. Hari simply giggles, telling him she understands that children are naturally like that at that age. Minwoo internally senses she is reassuring him, suspecting her answer is not the full truth. His mind flashes back to childhood memories, remembering how Hari always looked down at him with an unwavering, gentle smile whenever he sat alone in despair. Back in the present, Hari comfortably leans against his shoulder, declaring that while their workout routines are great, simply sitting together like this feels even better. Minwoo then recalls their recent trip to the aquarium, where Hari pointed at a family of fish and suddenly announced that they were going to have a pet soon too. When a startled Minwoo asked what she meant, Hari innocently teased that it was because they had not been buying basic supplies. That was the moment Minwoo realized her clever motive as they ended up at a convenience store counter together, blushing bright red as the clerk scanned a pack of vitamins. Determined to put those vitamins to good use under the excuse of teaching her a complete wellness regimen, our boy spent his entire salary and extended their hotel stay for a full week. They threw themselves into a non-stop personal study session, getting so carried away that someone even accidentally opened their hotel room door mid-meeting, leaving Hari frantically calling out about the open door. By the end of the week, the floor was covered in empty note papers, marking an unforgettable learning marathon before her departure. Finally, the day for Hari's flight arrives. Standing together at the airport, Minwoo asks if she is fine leaving without seeing Nari in person, and Hari confirms she already called her sister that morning. Our boy acts like a protective friend, warning her not to follow strangers, to text him regularly, to dress appropriately, and to keep her passport safe. Hari sweet-temperedly agrees to every request. Holding her hands tightly amidst the busy crowd, Minwoo gazes at her affectionately and warmly wishes her a safe flight. As Hari smiles and walks away, pulling her suitcase, Minwoo internally reflects that he wanted to ask her not to go, but she had no idea how he truly felt. He remembers how stunning she looked, but then recalls her bold parting words right before leaving, teasing that if he keeps being nice to her, they can try a brand new level of private PT class when she returns. The unexpected promise leaves Minwoo standing alone in the airport, feeling completely stunned. Back home, life without Hari feels agonizingly slow. Minwoo slumps over the restaurant counter, groaning in total boredom that time is practically standing still. He ends up getting so completely drained and exhausted that his male boss has to guide him along, asking Nari to help escort their star worker home safely. Nari, who arrived neatly dressed with a ponytail and choker, lets out a heavy sigh as she checks on him, wondering why he always ends up in such a state. As the days pass, the massive time difference makes it extremely difficult for Minwoo to stay in touch with Hari. To make matters worse, the people around him only add to the chaos. His energetic coworker keeps making strange comments about working hard based on what she learned, while Syoko has turned strangely cold and distant, bluntly telling everyone to be quiet. On top of that, Yuhi keeps persistently calling his phone, demanding to know when he will visit her and threatening to come over instead. Amidst all this madness, the only person who brings Minwoo any sense of comfort is Nari. She manages to guide him into the apartment so he can rest on the couch. When a groggy Minwoo complains that he wants to sleep in a proper bed, Nari snaps at him to walk over on his own if he wants to move. Looking up at her attentively, Minwoo thanks her and asks if she understands how he feels. Flustered, Nari looks away and claims she has no idea, awkwardly offering to introduce him to one of her friends instead. Nari lightheartedly taps Minwoo's face on the couch, asking if he wants her to set him up on a blind date, before telling him to change out of his dirty clothes. Exhausted from helping him home, Nari assists him with taking off his jacket. As she sets the jacket aside, she wonders how her older sister manages to handle looking after him like this every single day, realizing just how exhausting it really is. Meanwhile, a half-asleep Minwoo slips into a vivid nightmare. In his dream, 1 month passes and a stylish Hari appears, dramatically announcing that she is going to live in America permanently. Terrified by the thought of losing her forever, Minwoo jolts awake with a loud scream, frantically shouting out Hari's name and completely startling Nari right next to him. Settling back down, Minwoo drifts off into a much sweeter dream. This time, Hari commends him for being such a good friend, showering him with warm praise and supportive affection just as she promised. However, back in reality, Nari is leaning nearby, trying to help him remove his heavy outerwear so he can rest properly. Wondering why he keeps fidgeting so much in his sleep, Nari decides to just unbutton his outer coat with all her strength. Her sudden effort sends his outer coat along with his purple scarf flying straight into the air. A startled Nari lets out a scream as the purple scarf lands right on top of her head. She is left standing there in absolute shock and utter disbelief, with Minwoo's scarf perched directly on her hair like a hat. Minwoo wakes up on the couch, rubbing his eyes as a delicious aroma fills the air. Spotting a pot of seaweed soup simmering in the kitchen, his stomach growls, and he wanders over to find Nari busy preparing food. Caught off guard by his sudden appearance, a startled Nari asks if he is already awake, while Minwoo simply stares at her in silence. Sitting down at the table, Minwoo digs into the food and asks why Nari isn't eating with him. Standing at a distance with her calm composure, Nari quietly asks if the soup tastes good. Minwoo happily confirms that it is delicious, eating with satisfaction while Nari watches him closely. Suddenly feeling an awkward tension in the room, an uneasy Minwoo wonders if he somehow made a mistake. Calling him an old man, Nari instructs him to pick her up from her dance studio at 4 o'clock since she cooked seaweed soup for him. When Minwoo questions why she is going to the studio on a weekend, Nari explains that she has a test today and warns him that he had better show up. Sipping his soup, Minwoo casually agrees to come get her. Later, Minwoo checks his phone and sees friendly messages from Hari, who sent pictures while visiting a restaurant with her mother. Smiling softly at his screen, Minwoo thinks to himself how charming Hari is while admiring her bright smile in the photos. Noticing it is already 3 o'clock, Minwoo realizes it is time to head out. He makes his way to the upscale studio building where Nari practices. Remembering Nari's specific instructions, he claims to be her older brother at the entrance, which easily gets him past security. Stepping inside the impressive facility, Minwoo is amazed by how grand it looks. As he walks down the corridor, he spots a group of guys gathered outside a glass window, eagerly looking inside to see if she is in there. Curiously looking over their shoulders, Minwoo peers through the glass and finds Nari inside the studio, completely engrossed in a wholesome gym sesh in her athletic wear. Watching Nari perform her back exercises in perfect form in the studio, Minwoo has a sudden realization. Because he is around her all the time, he never paid much attention before, but he admits to himself that Nari is genuinely striking, standing out effortlessly and looking remarkably talented. He remembers how his high school buddies used to tease him for having absurdly high standards. Looking at her now, our boy internally notes that 20-year-old Nari is truly impressive. Suddenly, he hears the group of young men nearby boasting about wanting to ask Nari out, and Minwoo realizes they came there specifically to see her too. As Nari finishes her exercise session and takes a brief breather, one of the persistent guys approaches her, offering a cup of water while trying to make conversation. Feeling uncomfortable, Nari politely attempts to decline the drink. Minwoo steps forward and calls out her name, interrupting the pushy guy. Nari turns around in surprise, her face brightening as she asks why he arrived so early. Quickly motioning for him to follow, Nari announces that they need to leave because he has somewhere to be. When Minwoo asks what she means, she smoothly guides him down the hall. Behind them, the onlookers watch in frustration, wondering who he is and assuming he must be her older brother, completely stunned because it is their very first time seeing Nari act so friendly. Minwoo follows Nari into a quiet room and asks where they are. Unrolling a mat on the floor, Nari explains that it is an empty classroom where nobody usually goes. Sitting down on the mat, Nari requests a tutoring session, and when Minwoo asks why he should help, she explains that she has an upcoming test and needs to review her notes. Realizing why she actually called him there, Minwoo hesitates, but Nari slyly threatens to stop making him breakfast if he refuses. This triggers a nostalgic memory for Minwoo, recalling how he used to help little Nari with her homework for a few coins back when they were kids. Giving in, Minwoo sits across from her and playfully tells his student to sit back and review her material. Nari giggles, claiming she isn't nervous and asking to see his teaching skills. As Minwoo organizes the papers for her, he points out how unprepared she seems, and Nari reminds him that the test is really challenging. Minwoo playfully orders her to focus and pay attention, while Nari jokingly warns him that she will shave his head if he gives bad advice. But as Minwoo firmly sets down a detailed study guide near her, Nari feels a sudden rush of anticipation, leaving her flustered as she wonders why on earth she is feeling so nervous about the lesson. As Minwoo hands over the papers, Nari suddenly gasps, pointing out that an extra file dropped behind her. Looking down in confusion, Minwoo realizes his heavy binder accidentally slipped off the desk. Feeling completely awkward about the mess, Nari tells him to clear the area immediately. Nari turns back to her notes on the mat, and a flustered Minwoo awkwardly steps back, asking if she is alright and hoping things will calm down. Frustrated, Nari slams the door shut and walks off down the hallway, sarcastically wishing him good luck finishing up while handing him a study bill for his trouble. Overwhelmed by all the stress of the day, Minwoo retreats into a quiet room to engage in a personal study session. As clear focus returns to him, he lets out a heavy sigh, internally hoping for Hari to hurry back home. Meanwhile, in another stall, Nari is changing her clothes and notices that her socks are completely soaked with spilled water. Blushing in frustration, she wonders how they got so wet and panics because she does not have an extra pair. Soon after, Nari is called into the evaluation room for her singing and dance tests. She steps up in her performer outfit, giving it her all and flashing a bright, charming smile during her performance. Impressed by her routine, the evaluator claps and praises her, noting that she has worked hard and is nearly at idol level. He adds that while she previously lacked stage presence, she has improved drastically this time, leaving Nari internally surprised as she wonders if she actually came across as expressive. Nari was always a kid who did nothing but practice. Whether she was recording vocals in the studio, working on her posture on an exercise ball, or studying late at her desk, she dedicated all her time to constant preparation. Driven by an extremely competitive personality, Nari never had time to think about anything else. She looked down on couples arguing around her, viewing them as foolish and having zero interest in social drama. When a friend tearfully complained about a dishonest boyfriend, Nari bluntly advised her to simply walk away. Because of her cool and composed attitude, the people around her began to deeply respect her. Her fellow trainees watched her with pure admiration, constantly praising how cool she was and wanting to copy her style. However, that very same Nari ended up getting flustered as her socks were soaked with water for the first time in her life. Holding her discarded socks, she flushed in annoyance, irritated that because of Minwoo, she had to perform her evaluation completely barefoot in her shoes. She felt relieved that she still managed to pull off her routine despite worrying about executing big moves. As she stepped out, a fellow trainee popped up and mentioned that someone threw away their wet socks in the restroom, wondering who could be walking around without any. She then asked why Nari finished her evaluation so late, leaving Nari sweating in silent embarrassment. Walking into the lobby, Nari spotted Minwoo checking his watch. Our boy greeted her with a bright smile, holding out her favorite chocolate latte and cheekily claiming she must have done well thanks to his study session. Nari blushed cutely, playfully brushing off his claim before taking a sip and casually offering to buy him a juice to celebrate. Watching them from behind, a female trainee remarked on how well Nari seemed to get along with her brother, admiring how he even knew her favorite drink. Meanwhile, the jealous male trainee grumbled in pure anger, furiously complaining about whoever left such a mess in the empty classroom. Later that evening inside a basement bar, Yuhi sat looking at her phone when someone asked if she was in touch with Minwoo. Yuhi whined in frustration, complaining that he takes way too long to reply to her messages. Suddenly, a figure placed a hand on the counter, offering to reveal the exact location of the restaurant where Minwoo works. As an excited Yuhi begged for the details, the person smoothly stated that in return, she would have to do a favor for them. It turns out the person asking for a favor is none other than Yuhi's younger brother, Seoko. Yuhi looks at him in surprise, realizing Seoko wants something from her. Fidgeting nervously with his hands tightly clasped, Seoko awkwardly asks if she can make Minwoo stop acting like a rival for a little while, clarifying that he doesn't mean permanently, but just for a short time. Hearing his request, Yuhi smirks in delight, pleased that her little brother has finally caught on to the truth. With a playful and mischievous grin, she reassures Seoko not to worry, confidently promising that she will personally handle that guy for him. Minwoo carefully examines Nari's bandaged and bruised foot, gasping in disbelief that her foot is in such rough shape. He asks if she really went through her entire evaluation like this, and a flustered Nari quietly admits that she did. As Minwoo gently applies fresh bandages to her scrapes, complimenting her on how tough she is, Nari blushes deeply, her mind drifting back to how surprisingly chaotic their afternoon session felt earlier, wondering how he even manages to handle so much stress. Seeing her struggle, Minwoo gives her his own shoes to wear while he walks alongside her in just his socks. When Nari worriedly asks if his feet are hurting, Minwoo casually brushes it off, claiming he could even run like this. Looking down at his oversized shoes, Nari mutters that they are so big she might trip. Flustered, Nari asks him to walk right beside her. Minwoo looks back in surprise before smiling and stepping alongside her. As they stroll through the evening streets, our boy is struck by a wave of nostalgia, remembering how they used to walk together when they were kids. A flashback shows young Minwoo walking with a tearful young Nari, asking why she always cried every day. When she tearfully explained that her parents only gave attention to her older sister, and crying was the only way to get them to look after her, young Minwoo found her logic ridiculous. Young Minwoo admitted that his own parents wouldn't pay attention to him even if he cried, forcing him to keep his thoughts to himself. He then promised little Nari that he would look after her every single day so she wouldn't have to cry anymore, brightening her face as he offered to buy her some fish bread. Back in the present, Minwoo smiles at the sweet memory of their childhood bond. Nari breaks his train of thought, asking where they are heading. Minwoo explains that they are going to his restaurant because his boss urgently requested to see him, adding that he hopes to grab some juice and borrow a pair of slippers while there. However, as they step inside the restaurant, they are met with a sudden surprise, finding Yuhi already sitting at a table waiting for him.